Start and end your day with WFUV New York, public media from Fordham University. Listen at 90.7 FM or at WFUV.org.
Welcome to New York's longest-running sports call-in show. It's Sunday morning, and I don't know, we got a lot to talk about today. It's that time of year where it's like every sport is either
Saturday,
underway,
September 28th, 2024.
or,
it's
just
a cool,
getting into
drizzly
playoffs,
morning
so
here in the Bronx, and it's time for another edition of...
It's going to be a lot of fun today talking about everything. So I have Luis Andrade to my right. I have Trey Rodriguez across from me. And if you've watched or listened to, I should say, if you've listened to a lot of College Gridiron, you'll know that I'm basically the college football prophet here at the station based off of the playoff predictions last year. And I am your A-host for today, Will Jing. We have a lot to talk about. As I said, we're going to start off with a lot of basketball, and then we got WNBA. So basically basketball for the whole first hour. Second hour is basically a lot of football, ending with hockey. And then the third hour, we're going to get into baseball, which... I mean, playoffs are starting today, so that's exciting. I know, Lewis, you're really excited about that.
Excited.
Fully rocking the Yankees gear. But listen, I'm a little bit tired. I just mentioned it to you guys before we went on there. I'm a little bit tired of this, how are you doing, okay? It's a little bit too boring to start off the show, so I'm going to ask something different. What, if anything, did you guys have for breakfast today? That's the first question. And the second question is, what are you guys most looking forward to talking about today?
All right, I'll go first. Actually, right before this, I wasn't planning to eat anything today, but then, I was like, I'm hungry, so I went down to Urban, and I got myself a bacon, egg, and cheese, and I devoured that thing in like 5 minutes. So, yeah, I had a good bacon, egg, and cheese. I should really start eating that this week. It's pretty good. I recommend it.
Eating that what?
Bacon, egg, and chease.
I gotta get that. I heard it's really good. Yeah.
But and then what I'm looking forward to today. Looking forward to talking NBA. Been waiting forever to talk about the NBA, so I'm super excited it's coming back.
Unfortunately, I had no breakfast this morning.
I didn't either. I'm with you.
Yeah, kind of. We'll thug it out. We got it. Obviously, I'm most excited to talk about the Yankees. It's something special this year. I'm feeling it. It's in the air, and I think it's finally our year. So I'm really excited to talk about it.
I didn't have anything for breakfast either, but I mean, I've had some days where I just didn't flat out eat till like 4 p.m.
Really?
I think I've done 6 p.m. in the past year before, so I've had some just like really busy days. So I'll be fine. I had also I had this like massive meal last night it was like 5 p.m. Not too late, but I had like Popeyes for dinner, and it's still sitting in my stomach a little bit, so I think I have enough to go off of weight. But Trey, I gotta ask, just off of what you said, do you have a meal plan?
I do, yeah.
Okay. You got extra meal swipes? You got meal swipes to spare?
I'm not too sure actually. I don't know if I got 14 or 21. So.
Oh wait, I thought it was only 14.
It's the type of meal plan he's on. You're on the 14 one, right?
I have no clue.
Because I don't know, all I remember is when I was a sophomore, it was the 14, and then it was a 2 unlimited. So you really didn't have a choice unless you wanted to pay, an extra $1,000.
No, so I actually have zero clue what meal plan I have. So I'm hoping. I might have extra meal swipes. I might not. So
okay, you should check though, because otherwise, you're just leaving. You're leaving free food on the table.
Yeah, you gotta help Will out. Come on.
Yeah.
Sure.
Even if you're just gonna because you never know when there's a week where you need more than 14.
Yeah.
You might as well store it away for just in case you ever need it. But have you ever had the bacon, egg, and cheese from the deli or?
No, never had it.
Okay.
No.
I don't know. See, because as someone without a meal plan, it's not always the best idea to go to Urban and then spend like whatever they're charging, like $13 for that thing. Like I'm not doing that. That's kind of crazy. But I honestly just realized I forgot to go. So I just say what I didn't have for breakfast basically. But I'm most looking forward to either talking about with everything that's going on within college football, or probably I would say the WNBA, because I know we kind of spoke about it a little bit before the show. Listen, as a Liberty beat reporter, like I've really gotten to have a lot of fun watching this team a lot over the past few months. But last night was just enraging. I mean, again, we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but I had to shut the game off in the third quarter. Like it was, I should have been, working on preparing for today or going to bed early, but instead I was watching the Liberty play worse than my middle school basketball team. Like it was horrendous. But we'll get to that in a little bit. We'll take a quick break over here real quick, and then when we come back, we're gonna be talking local basketball. We're gonna be talking about the New York Knicks, who made a big move recently, as well as the Brooklyn Nets, who have some pretty low expectations for this year.
Hi, this is Mike Breen, WFUV class of 1983. WFUV is the flagship station of Fordham Athletics, with live coverage of Fordham football, Fordham men's and women's basketball, in addition to Saturday one-on-one. Stay right here on 90.7 FM for all things WFUV sports.
Welcome back to One on One. It's time to talk about New York basketball. And I guess this is a question that's kind of basketball related, but it also could not be. But I guess we're on the topic of New York sports, so I'll ask you guys, do you think that the Knicks will be the first New York team to win a championship in, I guess, I don't know how many years it is. I guess it's probably since the Giants.
Yeah, 12 years.
So
12
do
years.
you guys think it's going to be the Knicks? And if not, who's it going to be?
I mean, I think they have a pretty good shot winning it, but New York teams are good right now. I mean, there's a very good chance that the Yankees win the World Series. You also got the Liberty too to have a really good shot too. But I think I do think that the Knicks have a good shot. I'm not confident in saying yet that they will be the first team in 12 years to take home the championship for New York. But I think they can maybe do it next year. So, but they do have a shot this year. But I don't know if it's a great one.
So who's it going to be then?
Who do I think is going to take it home? Honestly, I think the Yankees are going to win a World Series. So,
okay,
I got the Yankees.
Lou is going to be happy about that.
Yeah, I'm really happy. I have to agree with Trey. The Knicks, I don't know. There's a lot of questions about chemistry, especially since they lost DiVincenzo and Randall. They were big parts of the team. And also, it's not only that. There's so many competitors. The Celtics, OKC, they just have so much competition now, and I'm not sure if they're willing to face it at this time.
Fair enough. I'm going to go at this point we mentioned a little bit earlier, after watching last night, I don't know if it's Liberty anymore. I still think they have the best chance, but we'll talk about everything else later. Let's focus on the Knicks right now. Jalen Brunson, right, biggest talk of the offseason up till the Cat trade for the Knicks was Jalen Brunson leaving 9 figures on the table, taking on that pay cut that was worth $113 million. That led to the flexibility that allows now the Knicks to trade for Karl Anthony Towns. Personally, I think that this is I don't know why everyone's like, oh my gosh, Nova Knicks, they destroyed the chemistry, like, just, crying their eyes out just over this trade, losing Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. I think this is the right move for the Knicks. I've said for a long time that they need another star piece if they want to win a championship. I don't know if Karl Anthony Towns is that piece. I was thinking more along the lines of somebody like a Kevin Durant, something like that. That's obviously a stretch, but I want to ask you guys: do you think that this is a move that's going to help the Knicks, or is it going to hurt the Knicks, or is it kind of just going to not make too much of a difference?
I remember saying when the Knicks lost in the playoffs this year, I remember saying that, like, almost immediately afterwards, I was talking to my friends in my group chat. I was saying, I kind of think the Knicks should go for Cat, and I didn't really think it was going to happen, though, but it actually did happen.
Cap.
So, no, I swear.
Lying,
but because I thought that their biggest problem was that they had no spacing at the 4 and 5. So, I think getting Cat is huge for them. And honestly, trading away Julius Randle, we already saw how much they did without Julius Randle last year. Like, obviously, it would have been great to have him, but they did so much without him anyway. So, trading him away was fine. And it hurts losing Dante, too. But honestly, kind of look at the trade, and sometimes you just think it was Cat for Dante because you didn't really need Julius Randle anymore anyway. But I think this trade is gonna help the Knicks. It is kind of concerning that the Knicks, they did build such a defensive heavy team just to take in a center who is known to have terrible defense. So that's the one part that scares me a bit. But if they can somehow game plan right, like correctly around Cat, and obviously use their fantastic wing defenses they have around him and make sure that they keep that paint safe, this could work out really well. I mean, like I said, that spacing was a huge problem for the Knicks last year. Sometimes during the games, they would really just lose their shooting during the stretch. So I think this trade can work out really well. If Cat shows up this year, maybe has a little bit of a bounce back season, because he's been playing all right recently, not been playing up to par. So if he plays well, I think this trade could go really well for the Knicks.
Yeah, Trey, you couldn't have said it any better. The also thing about losing Randall is they got to dump his massive contract. They hurts to lose Dante, obviously. I feel like that was a loss for their chemistry, but the upside for Cat is so much better. They needed that center. They were missing it. I know Hartenstein, they lost him in the offseason to OKC. It's just a piece that they needed. It fills that gap that you said in the space that they needed on floor space. And overall, I think it's a give and take move, and I think it's more give. Not more give. It's more take than give. I don't know. They got more from it than they lost.
Trey, what you said kind of reminds me of LeBron when you were like, I think that, like you said that as soon as they lost, you're like, I think they should go for Cat. That's like a Cap thing to say.
Yeah, Trey. Can we get a lie detector here?
No, I'm being so for real. That was my one thing that I kept on saying that whole entire series. Not that they should trade for Cat. I was saying that they need more spacing because you had obviously Mitchell Robinson wouldn't even dare think about shooting a 3, and I believe it was Josh Hart at the 4, right? It was Josh Hart at the 4 during the playoffs, I believe.
A lot of times.
he's not a great shooter either. I know he had some very clutch threes during the playoffs, but like most of the time he's not shooting that well. So you get like 2 players on the floor out of 5 that can't really shoot. So, I thought Cat was a very good option for them, but it really could have been any other good shooter too at the 4 to 5 because there's a lot of those nowadays in the NBA.
Okay, well, I did want to go back to a couple things that you said, but right now we do have Stefan Bondi calling in, so let's welcome him into the show.
Hello?
Yeah, hello. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
We're all doing great. I don't know if you were listening before. We were talking a lot about the Knicks. I know you work a lot on the Knicks for the New York Post, so we were kind of just talking about the Cat trade and whether or not it's a good or a bad move for the Knicks. And I guess we'll eventually talk about whether it's a good or bad move for the Timberwolves as well. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, it's a risky move. I think that, with Julius Randle, you had a kind of a proven commodity in that he's an elite, maybe not elite, but he's a top-level isolation scorer, and the Knicks were missing that in the playoffs. And then they had the situation in January where they were the best team in the NBA, and Julius Randle was a part of it. But there was also a feeling that the ceiling wasn't championship caliber. If Julius Randle was your second best player next to Jalen Brunson, it's kind of an awkward fit. So they went with a space the floor center who is a 4-time All-Star. So it's a risky move, certainly, but it's also an expensive move. Karl Anthony Towns has a lot of money left on his contract, but I think the thinking and the belief was that if we're going to raise our ceiling to championship level, that this is a move we should make.
I mean, I think personally, I agree with that sentiment. I was talking before, and I said that, basically throughout the past year, I said that the Knicks are they seem to be missing that extra star player. And I mean, I was thinking more along the lines of somebody like Kevin Durant, and obviously that's a stretch. Where I think Cat it's a step in the right direction. Now, do you think for the Wolves, though, on the other hand, do you think that this is a good move for them, or do you think it's a move in the wrong direction?
I mean, I think that they were in a money crunch situation. There you have a lot of they're up against the second apron. They have a new ownership. They're not a big market team, and they're facing a humongous luxury tax bill. And this was a way to both shed salary and not lose the idea that you're still competing for a title. Listen, Anthony Edwards is the best player on that team, no matter who they're getting. I think Julius Randle is going to buy into that. Dante DiVincenzo is obviously a great complementary piece. I don't think they got better, but I think that part of the philosophy with dealing Karl Anthony Towns was they had to shed money, and the person that made the most sense was Karl Anthony Towns, who, like I said, first of all, he's injury prone. So if you look at his past 4 seasons, he's missed a ton of games. So that's a big concern for the Knicks as they gave up some of their depth. But he's also making a lot of money, and it's not just this season. He's just starting a big extension. So in order to get off his money and get off the books and stay within under the second apron, because in order to build a championship contender beyond your core, you need to be under that second apron. If you're above the second apron, it's really hard to build your team out. So I think that was a big part of the philosophy for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
All right, I have a question as well too. Now the Timberwolves had a great basically fix for their defense when Cat was there by getting in Rudy Gobert. Now, because Rudy Gobert was there, you don't have to worry as much about Cat's interior defense. You have someone that can make up for it. What are the Knicks gonna do to make up for Cat's poor interior D now that they're probably gonna have to take Mitchell Robinson out of the lineup in exchange for him?
Yeah, I mean, Mitchell Robinson, he's not going to be playing until December at the very earliest, and that's at the very earliest. I mean, it could go well beyond that. This is somebody who's had problems with both of his feet and centers with feet injuries. That's a bad mix. So that's a big question mark is the rim protection. Tom Thibodeau, throughout his tenure here, has emphasized rim protection, and in Karl Anthony Towns, you do not have that element. But what the Knicks do have is elite and a really elite wing defenders. And we're talking about OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart. So I think there's going to have to be a philosophy change here that, listen, we're not going to be able to protect the rim like we used to, but we're going to be able to guard those wings on the opposing team a lot better than we used to. And I think, if Tom Thibodeau devises a scheme that plays to those strengths, they'll be okay. But you're right. I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns is not going to deter people from driving to the rim. He's not that type of player. And Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein were. So there's going to have to be a philosophy shift here and a strategy shift.
Talking about Mitchell Robinson, there were talks about him being on the trade block, about him getting moved out of New York. Are there any thoughts on that?
I don't know. What do you mean they're talking? Who was talking about
There was
that?
rumors about Mitchell Robinson being traded for another big-time center because they felt like it was too much for him and Cat to be in the same room.
What you're gonna have to tell me what rumors you're talking about? Like who said the rumor?
It was somewhere on Trey. Can you look it up for me? It was somewhere on the New York. What was it? Hold up, Trey. Trey's got it. Thank you, Trey. Trey.
It was It seems like it was a trade for regarding for the Pelicans. Trey Murphy.
Right, who's saying that? Who's putting the rumor out
NBA
there?
insider Ian Begley.
I didn't hear that. I don't see why the New Orleans Pelicans would do that unless they decided that they're not going to pay Trey Murphy. So, I don't. Mitchell Robinson, like I said, he's kind of damaged goods right now. So if a team were to be trading for him, they'd expect a lot of draft compensation back, especially if you're taking on a player of the caliber of Trey Murphy.
Now you mentioned, Coach Tibbs earlier and him devising a strategy that's gonna complement the best abilities of the players. Do you think the fact that he's known to basically run his best players into the ground and play them for full games, 44 minutes, things like that, do you think that combined with the fact that you mentioned Karl-Anthony Towns being injury prone, do you think that's going to be an issue for the Knicks?
I mean, it's one of the question marks, and I think that, when they made the trade, that if you look at the possible potential negatives, that's one of them. You are losing your depth, and you're trading for a player who's injury prone, and you have a coach who does not believe in load management. So, yeah, I think that is a concern. Listen, injuries happen. In Tom Thibodeau's first 4 years, there were very few injuries. I mean, Mitchell Robinson was the only guy, I think the only regular starter who was injured for a significant amount of time. And then last season, which is actually his fourth season. So his first 3 seasons, there wasn't many injuries. But his fourth season is when kind of the injury avalanche happened, and you had the situation with Mitchell Robinson. You had the situation with OG Anunoby and Julius Randle. So I think they're kind of banking on the idea that they're going to get lucky this season. If you look at the injuries that did happen, certainly Julius Randle's was really kind of a fluke thing. I mean, you can't prevent somebody tumbling over another player when they're going to the rim and then dislocating his shoulder. OG Anunoby's was an elbow fracture that, I think he actually had before he even got to New York. And then Mitchell Robinson's was more of a wear and tear injury. So you have to be careful with him if and when he does come back. But I think they're just banking on the idea is, hey, we're not going to be as unlucky as we were last season with injuries.
Now my follow-up is kind of like a two-parter, a little bit about defense and a little bit about shooting. Do you really feel like Karl-Anthony Towns is that much of a liability on the defensive end? And can Coach Tibbs potentially help him with that as a defensive-minded coach? And as far as shooting goes, who do you think is going to replace Dante DiVincenzo's shooting ability?
Well, the shooting, I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns might be the best three-point shooting 7-footer in the history of the NBA. So I think shooting won't be a problem. Mikal Bridges can shoot from outside, too. OG Anunoby can shoot. Josh Hart is really the only question mark, and he's been working on his three-point shot. So I don't think shooting is going to be an issue. I think they're going to be a really good three-point shooting team. Defensively, again, we talked about it before. There are some issues with Karl-Anthony Towns as a rim protector. I don't think Tom Thibodeau is going to solve those. But he has to shift his defensive strategy to focus on his strengths, which are at the wings.
Now we're any more questions regarding this trade. I know for to get Karl-Anthony Towns, Knicks had to trade away a good amount of depth pieces. Do you think that the bench going forward into this season, especially in a team that loves to run their players to the ground, love their starting lineup to the ground, do you think that this might be a problem going into the season further down the line?
Yeah, I mean that was one of the question marks that we talked about, that that depth is a concern, but they're banking on the idea that injuries, they're not going to be as unlucky as they were with injuries last year. Tom Thibodeau's not going to change his philosophy with load management. That's just not going to happen. He coaches every game like it's, the Super Bowl. He emphasizes the regular season, and it's why, the Knicks have kind of had a culture shift here where it's like, all right, we're trying to win games. And I think that's a positive thing. I don't look at what Tom Thibodeau does as a negative thing. I think, you do have to get lucky with injuries, and last season they were very unlucky.
Just one last question, Stefan. I just had a question about the Knicks' depth. A lot of people are saying that it's going to be a problem this year. Personally, I don't feel that way, especially because, as we mentioned, Tibbs likes to play his best players a lot. So, I mean, you're not going to need too much depth, I feel like, with a coach like that. And then at the same time, you still have pieces like Deuce McBride, Campaign, Mitchell Robinson once he gets healthy, Precious Achiuwa, TJ Warren, and then the end of the bench isn't even bad because then you still have Tyler Kolek, who's a rookie, coming in, and guys like Landry Shamet. Do you really think that the depth is going to be a problem like people say?
It's going to be a problem if there are injuries, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's a fair enough point because the players at the top, if one of them gets hurt, then you're gonna have a lesser quality player that's more used to being a role player, not much of a starting player, having to slide into the starting lineup. But thank you so much for your time, Stefan. Really appreciate you coming on the show here.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, Trey, I have to get to a point that you said earlier that I mentioned before Stefan came on the show. You said that the trade is essentially Cat for Donte DiVincenzo.
Yeah.
So you're telling me Julius Randle is just irrelevant?
Just from what we saw, I knew you were going to question that. Just from what we saw.
No, you didn't.
Just from what we saw last season, I think really it came to a point where Julius Randle was just totally out of the Knicks' future and game plan. There was just, you saw how good the team was doing without him, and there was a point that Stefan Bonnie brought up that that Julius Randle, when he was playing in January, when the Knicks were the best team in the league, he was part of that team. But I like to think that they were obviously the best team in the league during that time, but throughout the rest of the season they still played phenomenal too. I just think that really he was not really necessary for the future of the team, and he was an asset that you could just afford to let go. Now, Donte is something that hurt a bit more, I feel, for them, because you lost, like what we were talking about, you lost a great bench piece when you lose Donte like that. We already know that the Knicks starting lineup is great. Even when Randall was hurt, it still played phenomenal. Now, what's going to hurt is losing that bench piece. So that's why I thought that, honestly, losing Donte was a bit more of a bigger factor in this trade than Julius Randle. But I can also perfectly see the viewpoint that losing Julius Randle might hurt this team more than I'm expecting it to.
I think that this is going to hurt. I mean, Julius Randle, his absence is going to hurt more than Donte DiVincenzo because you have players that are playing, that wing position. You already have OG Anunoby, Josh Hart. You have these guys that can slide in. Deuce McBride can play the two. I feel like Julius Randle, this team's a little bit short on bigs, as we spoke about earlier. You have Josh Hart playing the 4. Personally, I think that that's something you're going to miss a little bit more. Plus the fact that I feel like Julius Randle, he's capable of going off in ways that Donte just is not. And I also do want to mention, this Knicks team is going to have some solid time to gel because Cat, OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, and Deuce McBride are all returning next year. So, I guess unless somebody gets traded or unless, I don't know, somebody just unexpectedly retires for I don't know what reason. So, other than that, the Knicks are going to have time to put this thing together for this year and next year. And then as long as you extend a couple contracts, even beyond that year, So you have some good years with this squad. I think the Knicks can really build something here. And if they make another trade for another big piece, that's going to be huge. But just real quick, I did want to go across down to Brooklyn, where the expectations are pretty much the opposite of the Knicks. I mean, they're expected to be a pretty poor team, only expected to win 17 games this season. Ben Simmons is coming back. Obviously, some people probably forgot that he actually plays for the Nets because he's been out for a few years, but he's had those videos go up, on Chris Brickley's Instagram, of him working out
every year.
He says he's ready. I was at the Brooklyn Nets media day. He said he's ready. So I want to ask you guys, how big of an impact do you think Ben Simmons is going to have on this Nets squad this year?
If Ben Simmons is healthy as they say, the guy is a fantastic player, but the main problem with him, I feel a lot of times, is his confidence. He's lost all of it. Now, if he can somehow regain that confidence back while also maintaining health too, I mean, listen, this team is not good, but he could definitely get them to be a bit better than what they will be right now. I think they're the worst team in the league. If Ben Simmons returns to his former self, or near it at least, maybe they might be a bottom 5 team, not the worst team though.
I think he doesn't have a choice. This is his contract year, He's been riding off that contract with the Phillies ever since he got traded from there.
The Sixers.
Yeah, the Sixers. Thinking about baseball all the time, Sixers. And he's just been riding off of that for so long, and I think he has to actually show up so he can actually get a big contract in this upcoming offseason.
That's a good point because, he's going to want to get that back in the offseason. But we've been talking basketball for a little bit. We're going to continue. Well, let's take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be going around the league, and we're going to be talking about non-New York basketball.
I'm Chaz McAdams.
And I'm Ben Oppenheimer.
And we are two of your hosts for On the Hill, the flagship podcast of Fordham Athletics.
We'll be talking about everything from football at Moglia Stadium
to hoops at the historic Rose Hill Gym.
Discussing the ins and outs of all Ram athletes, teams, and big games.
If you want to be part of the Ramily, then listen to On the Hill from WFUV Sports.
So we started off in New York, but now we're going to move to the opposite side of the country. We're going to move to the other biggest market in the United States. Let's talk about LA, and more specifically, the LA Lakers. They have J.J. Redick now as their new head coach instead of Darvin Ham. And I saw a funny clip on Instagram yesterday. It was Bronny saying that J.J. Redick's brought some good vibes to this team, and it's a lot better from compared to last season from what he's heard, which means somebody was at the dinner table in the James household talking a lot of stuff about what was going on with Darvin Ham and that roster last year. So obviously not completely new team, but some new pieces like Bronny, Dalton Connect this year, and you got a new coach. Do you guys think this is going to work out for the Lakers?
Yeah, actually, normally I'm not really that high in the Lakers, but I think that this might be a good season for them. This might be one of those seasons where the usual hype that is around the Lakers just because they're Lakers might actually be warranted. I don't think they're going to be winning an NBA championship, but I think I could totally see maybe a Western Conference Finals, maybe a second round. But yeah, J.J. Redick, we don't really know much about the coaching situation. He's never been coached before, so we don't really know how he's going to be, what his scheme is going to be, how is he going to run offense and defense. So that's more of a question mark that we're going to have to find out as the season goes on. But they got in a solid. Dalton Connect probably one of the most league-ready rookies that you have.
Steal of the draft.
So really, you think so?
Absolutely.
So
to get him where they got him, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that is true. So yeah, I mean, they did have a great pick with him, and he could be an instant contributor right away. So it's kind of what they need, Like they just need someone like Dalton Knecht who can contribute right away because there's not much time left for this Lakers team. So I got high expectations for them.
I agree. They were a play-in team the past couple seasons, and I feel like JJ has the potential to launch them up into contention. Second round, maybe hopefully Western Conference Finals. I'd love to see LeBron make it a couple more times, but at the same time, I feel like they're getting more credit than is deserved, especially with the news of his son being on the same team with him. They're getting more hype than they should have, in my opinion.
I'm with you guys when you guys say that JJ Redick is probably going to work out. Again, like you said, Trey, we haven't seen him coach at a high level, but we have seen him on a podcast talking about the X's and O's. That does show that he has some pretty solid knowledge of the game, plus working as an analyst. Darvin Ham didn't have much coaching experience either, so you're not really straying too far from that type of situation. And I think the roster, if anything, is going to be better. D'Lo's said that he's going to take more accountability. LeBron looked good in the Olympics, so he's still going to be LeBron. You still have AD, and Dalton Knecht. I think it's really the steal of the draft. He was projected as a lottery pick, and they got him, outside the lottery. He was projected to be top 10, in fact. So for them to pick up someone like that, who was, I think it was torching Purdue. So when Tennessee played Purdue last year in the March Madness tournament, so that's definitely going to be a huge addition. Possible Rookie of the Year candidate, maybe. But enough about the Lakers. Let's talk about another new piece moving to a different team, and that would be Russell Westbrook on the Denver Nuggets. Now, if you told me a few years ago that Russell Westbrook was going to be playing with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray on the Nuggets, on a team that just won the championship 2 years ago, I would tell you, what kind of crack are you doing? Because I need some of that. Because that is crazy. But listen, it's 2024, and here we are getting ready for the regular season, and Russell Westbrook is in a Denver Nuggets uniform. I think this is speaking of steals, this is a steal for the Nuggets to get him at the price they got him at, to their already insane squad that was already, in contention for a title. This is probably Russell Westbrook's best shot at a title since being in OKC with Kevin Durant.
I love the Nuggets. They're one of my favorite teams. I think, unfortunately, I'm actually not really that high on them this year. They're still going to be a great team. They're the best player in the world with Jokic, but I really think that loss of KCP was huge for them. He's been a giant member of that team over the past few years, and you're going to lose a lot of shooting with him leaving. Westbrook is great. He's a great addition to the team. He's going to be a great veteran presence, but I just think that really you had a team that kind of worked so well with each other for so long, and then just by a loss of a player that you would think would be so insignificant in KCP, I think that's going to hurt. I think it's going to hurt the Nuggets more than it's going to help them. I think that they actually end up being a bit of a worse team than they were from last year. So, I don't know. I'd love to see this. I love to see this Westbrook trade work out. I'd love to see him get his ring. He needs it. He deserves it, and this is his best chance since OKC to get that ring by far. So, I'd love to see it come to fruition. I don't know if I really see it happening now because the West is getting so strong, and we saw what happened last year. The Nuggets got killed by the Wolves. So, I don't know if Westbrook's their solution.
I agree. The loss of KCP is going to be huge for them when he went off to Orlando. But it's Westbrook. It's kind of weird to see him in 4, but used to seeing him in 0. But that's not the point. Russell, he has that veteran presence. He's proven that he can be a great piece off the bench, playing for the Clippers, and especially when he's on the Lakers back a long time ago. Actually, no, it was only 2 seasons ago, right?
Mm-hmm. 2-3 seasons ago.
Yeah, time goes by fast. Russell, he proves himself he could be a great bench piece, especially with his capabilities as an all-star.
I will I will actually mention, because we'll kind of talk a little bit about predictions and awards and stuff. I do have a prediction for Russell Westbrook later on. Well, more specifically, I should say less specifically, the Nuggets in general. But we'll talk about that in a little bit, in about 10 minutes or so. Let's talk about Paul George in Philadelphia. That's another odd move that, listen, honestly, I don't know why. People always talking about, like, this person in this uniform looks right. Russell Westbrook in a Nuggets uniform, I don't know why. It actually looks right. But Paul George in a Sixers uniform does seem kind of off. But this is definitely an upgrade that the Sixers have been looking for, to add him to a big three involving Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. To think about it, this might also be their best shot at winning a championship, probably since the Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid trio. So they're, again, going to be in contention on the Eastern Conference side. We talk about how strong the West is. The East is still pretty strong, too. They're going to have to contend with the Celtics, the Bucks, the Knicks, and if the Cavs, really step it up, them too. So, big move by Philly to make sure they stay in the mix. And potentially, if all these players really step up, this team could realistically go to the NBA Finals. We know how good Joel Embiid is. We know, it's been a decade, to be fair. But we know how good Paul George was in Indiana. If he can manage to somehow, some way bring that back out, and we see sparks of it sometimes, if he can manage to bring that back out, this team could be a championship contender.
I think Sixers are my least favorite team in all of sports. I can't stand them. But I think his team's gonna be absolutely filthy this season. That Paul George trade I thought was absolutely huge for him, and I think of that because of this. Now, last season we had Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, absolutely star-studded duo. Maxey's an absolute bucket, but look what happens when one of them goes down, especially Joel Embiid. That Sixers team became horrible. Now, obviously, you're not bringing in Paul George to be an insurance policy, but he's also gonna act like that too. Now, you have your new. I don't even know. I don't know. Tyrese Maxey might be better than Paul George. So, second or third best player on the team now. But if one of your star players goes down, you still have a second one to go off with Paul George. So there's not going to be as much concern in the regular season, especially for a big center like Embiid, who gets hurt kind of often. So bringing in Paul George is really going to help this team in a regular season, I believe. What I am concerned about is we know that this team does not show up in the playoffs, and we all know playoff P. So hopefully, Joel Embiid and Paul George in the playoffs is kind of scary. They're just not good in the playoffs at all. So if they manage to maybe get it together and they get it to click in the playoffs, they could totally win the chip this year. But if they're just going to continue doing what they always do, then it's not going to happen. But this team has the potential to be absolutely filthy.
I agree, Trey. You really say everything. Like, you take all the words out of my mouth. And I feel like it's such a big upgrade from Tobias Harris. Why are you laughing, man? Going from Tobias Harris with that massive contract, he was just killing the Sixers. He wasn't producing and killing their cap space. And this upgrade to Paul George, it's exactly what the Sixers needed.
All right, so we're done in Philly. Let's talk about last year's championship runner-ups, the Dallas Mavericks. Another big piece being moved. Well, I guess some people say he went 0 for 10 in an elimination game. So not everyone agrees that this is a move of a big piece. But the Dallas Mavericks added Klay Thompson. I think on one hand, this is exactly what they needed in the form of somebody who is not ball dominant and is good at working without the ball. Luka and Kyrie are both so ball dominant, and sometimes it's like one has the ball when it's like the other one could also really have the ball, so they kind of like overlap in a sense. Other times they complement themselves really well, but Klay is a perfect complement because now people can't double Luka, double Kyrie, things like that, or just put too much focus on them because you still got to worry about leaving Klay open. The one problem that this does, I want to say that this gives the Mavs a problem, but it's just a problem that Klay doesn't solve, is their size problem. I think that's going to catch up to them. We saw it play a factor at times in last year's playoffs. Klay is not, going to be a guy that he's not going to be a guy that's going to grab rebounds and guard centers for you. So that's still going to be a problem for them. Their team, their bigs are not that big. You know what I mean? They're not super. They need to put on some more muscle to be able to grab rebounds and handle guys like Joel Embiid or Giannis and things like that. And the thing about Klay is actually this might present a little bit more of a problem, because if you're going to start Klay, that means your starting lineup is now Kyrie, Luka, and Klay at the 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're going to have two, skinnier bigs. You're going to have a massive problem on, the defensive end. So I see that being a problem for them, but I'm going to get your thoughts on this Dallas Mavericks team.
I mean, I think this team did get better from last year. They did lose Derek Jones, but that was really their only big loss of the offseason. Getting in Klay is really nice for them. We saw a lot of times, especially during the finals last year, that their shooting went really bad. So bringing in one of the greatest shooters of all time with Klay Thompson, except in an elimination game, is really good for them. But I don't know if this was the move they had to make. I think I think they maybe could have prioritized maybe getting a better power forward or center. I do think that Derek Lively is a great player, but he is still very young, especially for a team that is trying to contend right now. And if we're going to look at that 1, 2, and 3 with Luka, Kyrie, and Klay, I mean, those are 3 positions where you're really lacking in defense. So I mean, this team's just going to keep on buying into being.
Well, Klay has defense.
Yeah, it's nothing crazy though. It's much better than Luka and Kyrie, but it's nothing that you're writing home about. And I think that you're just buying into more offensive firepower while losing a bit more defense. But you gotta hope that this offense really clicks for them, because sometimes, as we saw last year, it goes kind of dry and just completely relies on Luka. These other players that they're paying that need to step up. So, this could work for them. This could work for the Mavericks, or it could not work for them. So I'm kind of curious to see how it goes. I'm hoping Klay has a better season than he did last year. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree, Trey. I don't think it's going to work out too much for the Mavs. The offense was a big problem for them, but defense was like a killer. I feel like if they had more defense, they could have at least put up a fight against the Celtics in the finals. Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively are not enough to put up a good fight. So I see the good side to getting Klay. That's the off-ball shooter they needed, but at the same time, they needed defense.
Now, to wrap up our NBA talk, because we will be talking WNBA next, I want to get – well, actually, I guess it's kind of a long wrap-up thing, because we're going to be giving some predictions here. So I want one underrated and one overrated team going into the season, and a very quick reason why, and then we're going to run through some award and championship predictions.
All right. So – overrated team I'm just going to go with the Nuggets. I think that, like I said, that loss of KCP is huge. And, I mean, their bench is just straight up not good. They don't have a good bench. Underrated, Pelicans. Signed DeJounte Murray, may have lost Jonas Valanciunas, but I think that DeJounte Murray trade is going to get them a lot of good offense going on there. Now, awards, MVP, Jokic.
No, we'll get to awards a little bit. We'll get to awards. Don't get ahead of yourself, Trey. Lewis, let's get the underrated and overrated.
I know this is going to be a bit of a hot take, but I'm going to say OKC is a little overrated. They had a great run last time, but I still feel like they don't have that playoff experience. They got Caruso now, great piece to add, but I still feel like he's somewhat overrated. Underrated team, I would say the Magic, because they had a decent playoff run. They got the addition of KCP, and that's kind of like the player they needed to help them, have that experience and just overall make a better team.
All right.
Completely disagree with you, but
I see his point with OKC. I mean, it could be like, listen, they had a good year, but they have to come back down to earth a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That may happen. My underrated team, I'm gonna go. I thought about making it the Sixers, but I'm gonna go with the Bucks. Okay. Everyone has forgotten how good Damian Lillard is.
They have.
Just because they didn't make too much noise last year, listen, this team is coming back, and they're coming back for another championship. We already know who Giannis is. We know how Dame is, especially come playoff time. They're going to be very good. They still have Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, and a lot of good pieces on this team. And then overrated, I'm going to go Timberwolves. I think that the Cat loss is going to be huge for them, and I think it's going to show. They're getting some bench scoring from Dante DiVincenzo. Maybe he'll start, but I think that the loss of Cat's going to hurt them. Now let's do some awards. We're going to do Rookie of the Year, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, and Most Improved Player. So all 5 of those, just real quick, rapid fire.
All right. Rookie of the Year, Alex Sarr. Rookie class is really bad, but he's my choice. MVP, I got Jokic once again. Amazing player. DPOY, Victor Wembanyama. He's going to run it for the next 10 years. Sixth Man of the Year, that's kind of hard. I'm really not too sure about the Sixth Man of the Year.
Okay.
And then
Most Improved.
Most improved, you know what? I'm going to go with Scotty Barnes.
All right.
MVP, I'm going to have to say Luka. You know, it's been a long time coming. I feel like this is finally he's going to be his year. DPOY, I have to agree. Wemby. Rookie of the Year, I'm going to have to say Donovan Clingan. I know this is a little weird, but he dominated in UConn, and he's on a Portland Trailblazers team that doesn't have a lot to show, so I feel like he's going to get a lot of time. Sixth Man, I was gonna say Dante, but I'm not sure. He might start, so I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna have to go.
Good choice, though.
Yeah, and Most Improved, I would say Kobe White.
All right. So for me, Rookie of the Year, I got Stephon Castle. I think that situation in San Antonio is going to help with Wemby. He's got a good coach. DPOI, I got Drew Holiday. A little bit of a sleeper pick.
Okay.
One of the best defenders in the NBA. Sixth Man of the Year, I got Dante DiVincenzo.
Yep.
Most Improved, toss-up between Cade Cunningham and Wemby. And my MVP is Luka. And last prediction, championship team.
Championship team.
No
Celtics.
explanation. Celtics.
Knicks.
Nuggets. All right, we'll send it to a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the WNBA playoffs, which I have a lot to say about.
Hey, this is Chris Carino, Fordham and WFUV class of 1992. WFUV is your home for all things Fordham athletics, with live coverage of Fordham football, Fordham men's and women's basketball, in addition to our Saturday show, One-on-One. Stay right here on 90.7 FM for all things WFUV sports.
Welcome back to One-on-One, where it is now my chance to talk about how if this wasn't on air, 1,000 expletives would have just came out of my mouth. How horrid the Liberty were last night, especially in that third quarter. It was absolutely embarrassing. One of the most piss-poor performances I have ever seen in this sport. Absolutely shameful the way this team played in the third quarter. zero energy, no rebounding, complete laziness, missed layups. Listen, I told you guys before the show started, and I will say it again for the world to hear, or, I mean, however many people are watching on YouTube right now and listening on WFUV tonight. Okay, my CYO team when I was a teenager could have come in and played better than the New York Liberty did in this third quarter. You should have put me on the court in place of one of these girls, because the astounding lack of effort was insane. You don't have to make every shot. It wasn't even about making shots. Yes, they missed open shots, but God, at least show that you're trying. And this team just didn't look like they tried at all in the third quarter. And I've seen clips, not clips, just times as a Liberty beat reporter this season where they just look like they're cruising. And I think that's how they came into this game, being up 2-0. And you cannot play like that, because listen, you're going to need that little bit of extra time to prepare for the Lynx, because the Liberty, I believe, lost twice to the Lynx at least this season. You are going to need to be well prepped for them, because they are a well-oiled machine on both sides of the ball. And I mean, Tucker, who's producing, he told me before the show started, I think that Sabrina Ionescu just didn't score at all in the first half. I didn't even notice that. But if that is true, that is, I mean, listen, Sabrina Ionescu has been inconsistent for the last few months, and she showed up for sure so far in these playoffs. But if this is going to be a regression, New York is in a whole lot of trouble, because then you're looking at Brianna Stewart backpacking this team just to the moon. Jonquel Jones is good, but she's not, a scoring machine. She can go off here and there, but she's not a scoring machine, and you shouldn't be relying on her to be. Leonie Phoebus has been pretty good, but listen, this team needs to get it together, because this team is not the New York Liberty anymore. It looks like Brianna Stewart and friends.
I mean, like how you're saying, like how Ionescu did not score once in the first half. She only had 4 points last night. Shot 1 for 7. First of all, why are you only shooting 7 shots when you're basically the best player on the team?
Because you're inconsistent and you're missing too many.
This is the playoffs, though. You gotta step up, and you gotta take the opportunity. And this is your team. You gotta lead it. You gotta be the person that the team relies on, that you can shoot. Now, we all know that Ionescu is a great shooter. So, I mean, I understand it's like that thing. Or I rather have a player shoot 0 for 100 than shoot 0 for 10, and because that means that you lost confidence in your shooting. Obviously, that's an exaggeration, but Ionescu totally lost confidence last night. She just stopped shooting. So she needs to get back her confidence on her shooting, and if she doesn't, this could be really bad. I mean, Brianna Stewart basically is the only player that's performing right now, and this could be disastrous if they allow the Aces to come back and win Game 4.
Time out, Lewis. Before you talk, I do have to give some context. Sabrina was shooting so little also because she was being doubled a lot, and because of how well she was playing in the first couple games, the Aces were completely smothering her. Okay. That's also why I don't think she lost confidence in her shot. After speaking with her in media scrums after games, I know that she's a pretty confident player. I think she's fine as far as that goes. It's just the consistency as far as the shots that she does sink.
I got you.
Yeah. The Liberty it was a pitiful performance, like you said. 6 points in the third quarter. You can't do that. It's complete collapse of the entire team. I think this is really a huge loss, not only because you could have completed the sweep and gone off to the finals, but you give the Aces a chance. You give them momentum. You give them that oh, we got one, maybe we can get 2, and then force a Game 5, and then we could win there. Anything happens in the Game 5.
I agree. You can't let the Aces, 2-time defending champions, get their foot in the door. This is the first time they faced an elimination game in these few years. You need to shut that freaking door. And honestly, even in the first half, you couldn't. The score was close, but if you watched the game and nobody told you the score, it did not feel like it was close. The Liberty had no answer for Asia Wilson. Chelsea Gray was having her way. I'm looking at the box score. I don't know how she had 10 points last night, because it felt like she had 20. Kelsey Plum, 0 answer for her. I mean, she started looking like she was playing lockdown defense. And listen, Kelsey Plum is, I mean, from watching her play, she's a liability defensively. She's basically James Harden, literally. I'm telling you, go watch the next time the Aces play and think of her as James Harden. You won't be able to unsee it because that's literally how she plays. That's her play style. And when she's playing lockdown defense on you, that becomes a problem. Then you have, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. I don't know what it is with the WNBA. But, I mean, the Liberty were just missing open layups. And this is a common occurrence in the WNBA. I don't know why. But, I mean, when Sabrina was missing wide open, inside hand finishes, then you have Benijah she had an open look, and I get it. Yeah, Asia Wilson is chasing you down on the break. You have a 2-on-1 with Breanna Stewart. If you're really so scared that Asia Wilson is going to block you, you should be filling the lane in a way, and so should Breanna Stewart, that you could go up and try to attempt it, and if Asia Wilson's right there, then you can wrap it around and pass it to Breanna Stewart. Instead, she just walks around under the hoop, passes it to Breanna Stewart, who doesn't even expect the pass. This team just looked like they were completely in shambles. Plus, the Liberty were extremely passive. I mean, and more so I'm referring to Courtney Vandersloot. Listen, if you're open, you need to shoot the freaking ball. And I would have used a different word, not freaking, if we weren't on the air. But listen, she had so many open looks that she passed up. You cannot let that happen, because now the Aces know you're not going to shoot it. We're just going to start leaving you. We're like, she shot like 1 3. She shot a couple. She made one. But you need to just be willing to shoot that. At least show the Aces. I'm not saying go be Steph Curry and shoot a lot. But if they just leave you, completely disrespect you, you have to be willing to take that and hopefully knock it down so that at least they respect you a little more. And then they pay more attention to you. You have a little bit of attention coming off of your teammates. And then you could also potentially, if they're a little bit closer, go in for cuts and get good layups off from, a pass from Sabrina, whoever else.
Now just looking for what the game plan should be. If Sabrina's going to be getting doubled all the time, obviously what the game plan should be is, right, we have to get the ball out of Sabrina's hands when she's getting doubled, right to the next player. Now, looking at their stats from last night, she had 5 assists, which are pretty good, but she also had 5 turnovers too. Now, this kind of needs to be an issue that's resolved here, or else they're just going to keep on doubling her, and they're not going to be nervous about who the next shooter is going to be, or even if the ball is going to get to the next shooter in the first place, because she's just going to turn the ball over. So they need to try to find a way to maybe get the person where the help defense is coming from, get them open, so this way there's an easier outlet pass that Sabrina can look for and actually deliver the ball. Now, you do this, you can solve your problems by forcing a complete scramble on a defense, and basically just with good ball movement, solve all your problems. Either get a wide open 3, or if you got help coming from the paint, pass it right into the paint, get an easy 2 points right there. Now, if you don't solve this, the Aces could have figured out the New York Liberty, and this could be absolutely disastrous for them.
The problem though with that is, though, the Aces are pretty good with their rotations, right? Mm-hmm. So they're going to rotate properly, and the turnovers come off of the fact that they're doubling Sabrina, and then she's either getting her pass blocked by one of the 2 people that's on her. They're blitzing her essentially on screens.
She's not the tallest player either.
Exactly. She's around my height. Yeah. They list her at 5'11" is BS. I've stood next to her, so I know. And then when she's passing the ball, the Aces rotate well, so they're able to get to the ball and intercept it essentially before the pass reaches its intended target. So the Liberty just needs to figure it out. Make sure that there's people. They make sure that schematically, and this is up to Coach Danny Brunello and to the star players of the team to figure this out. They need to make sure that there are players in the right position so that when Sabrina is being doubled, when she is being doubled, blitzed off of the screen, they need to make sure that she has the right targets in the right spots, right, so that they can send the Aces into a scramble despite them being a well-rotated team and take advantage of those opportunities. Because listen, essentially, when one of your players is doubled, then you have a 4-on-3 with the rest. Yeah. So you need to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. But real quick, let's talk about the Lynx and the Sun. The Lynx won the in-season tournament for a reason. Let me tell you that. And this team is good. I think they're going to beat the Sun fairly handily in Game 4, and they're going to advance to the WNBA Finals, where I think they have a good shot at beating the Liberty.
Now, I mean, we look at the Lynx. great defensive team, and they used a lot of grit and heart to win their games. The one thing that could really help out the Liberty here is that they continue to keep on shooting from three poorly. So if really what the Liberty have to do if they do end up going against the Lynx is that the Lynx need to one, completely game plan around the Lynx' amazing defense. They're already struggling going against the Aces on this defense. If the Lynx want to send a double to Sabrina, and that's working for the Aces, then they can keep on doing that too. So they need to find a way how to get the ball out of Sabrina's hands. Really, I mean, it's going to be such a good matchup. A really good offensive team versus a really good defensive team. If this is how the series is going to go, I think it's going to be very good.
All right, well, that does it for our first hour of sports talk and all our basketball talk. When we come back from this break, we're going to be talking all things football, pro and college.
It's WFUV New York, public media from Fordham University. Come for the music and stay for the community. Listen at 90.7 FM or at WFUV.org.
Hey sports fans, it's Bobby C. I'm the sports director here at WFUV. From live broadcasts of Fordham athletics to coverage of all the professional sports teams in the NYC, we've got everything a sports fan could ask for. Like talking sports? Check out One-on-One, New York's longest-running sports call-in show, as well as our diverse collection of podcasts. If you're a Fordham student interested in joining our program, feel free to shoot me an email, bobbyc@wfuv.org. And as always, thank you to all of our listeners who support us every week. 90.7 FM is the home of WFUV Sports.
What's up, everyone? I'm Evan Harkin, your New York Jets beat reporter for the 2024 season. Stay up to date with all things white and green from MetLife Stadium. From Aaron Rodgers touchdowns to Sauce Gardner interceptions, I've got you covered. So join me and Gang Green on Twitter at Ev Harkin and stay locked in with the JETS on WFUV, your home for New York sports.
What's new this year? New York football is garbage once again. Both the Jets and the Giants are currently struggling in the NFL season. The Giants as expected, the Jets struggling a little bit more than expected, I would say. Aaron Rodgers has looked to have some conflict with his, not conflict necessarily, but frustration, I guess. He's expressed frustration visibly with his teammates and also probably his coaches. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on the current state of the Jets right now, and is Aaron Rodgers the problem, or is there more at hand that's a problem than A-Rod?
I mean, I think there seems to be a lot of problems going on between Aaron Rodgers and Saleh. I know a comment the other day that Saleh made that he was blaming Aaron Rodgers' cadence on some of their problems at the Broncos game. That's kind of a crazy scapegoat to throw to there, because I mean, you have someone like Aaron Rodgers been in the league for years. Obviously, his cadence is going to be a bit more advanced. So, there's definitely a bit of scapegoat going on right here. I don't think this is really Rodgers' fault at all. This is more of a team problem. I think that you losing to the Broncos is absolutely despicable. I mean, the Broncos are absolutely horrible. Like Bo Nix is not a good quarterback. Like he can run the ball pretty well, but he can't throw at all. So, it's just an unacceptable loss. Basically, that Broncos game was completely one-dimensional, no running at all. Breece Hall, 10 carries for 4 yards. How is that even possible?
Can I add that Aaron Rodgers was the leading rusher for the New York Jets?
That's insane. He's 40 years old. Like, I don't understand that. Like, the Jets defense obviously always playing great anyway. One of the best defenses in the NFL. We all know that. But their offense, like, just what is going on?
To be fair, it was raining so bad that game. It was almost impossible to keep your hand on the football.
It was. I mean, there's a good point too that actually Tucker just brought up was that the rain. But at the same time, why don't you run the ball more then? Because it's raining. I mean, usually a lot of times in bad conditions, you just want to run the ball. So, just why did that completely come out of their game plan and they just started slinging it when it wasn't really working in the first place?
Yeah, I agree, Trey. I feel like I don't mean to disagree, but I just feel that the Jets, it's more of a problem as a team because they're just like, it's like here the running problem. The rain was a big factor. It was a huge factor, I don't know why they kept passing it when they should have ran the ball, but Breece also failed to show up there. The Jets just need to. I feel like it's more of a bad start than actually like the team having a problem because you had a rough start with the 49ers. I feel like the reason they lost was because of the rain. They missed a couple field goals at the end was the reason why they lost. So I feel like it's just more of a bad start than actually showing that the team is bad.
I think. Listen, I know this right now. Aaron Rodgers is not the problem.
Mm-hmm, totally.
We know what Aaron Rodgers is capable of. And we see glimpses of him being really, really good. So that's not the problem. One problem is the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Saleh needs to go back to being a DC. That's first and foremost. I don't think he's not. Maybe one day, but right now he's not at the point where he can handle all the duties of a head coach.
Yes.
Nathaniel Hackett has to go. I mean, no. We need a new offensive coordinator. It just looks bad. I mean, when you have, without Cortland Sutton, the Broncos have 0 net receiving yards. Bo Nix threw 12 for 25, 60 total passing yards, and that won them a game.
That's insane.
Another problem. That's not a defensive problem because the defense showed up, obviously.
Yeah.
It's not an Aaron Rodgers problem. I'm not going to blame Breece Hall because we know what Breece Hall can do. I'm blaming this atrocious offensive line.
Yep.
I mean, the amount of pressure that was able to get to A-Rod, that's part of the reason why they weren't successful as much through the air. He was still 24 for 42 with 225 passing yards. That's part of the reason, along with the fact, like we said, the rain. Also, the D-line, no sacks. The Denver Broncos had 5. So, another problem. It's really just, I forgot who told me this, but the other day someone was like, each football game is one of the trenches.
Yep.
And it shows because A-Rod had a better game than Bo Nix, obviously. And the Jets still managed to lose, despite the fact that Bo Nix, without Courtland Sutton, had 0 net passing yards.
Didn't he start like first half -9 yards too or something?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. This Jets team needs to figure it out because, listen, Aaron Rodgers ain't getting any younger. I'll tell you that.
Yep.
You're on borrowed time. And if you're planning on having Jordan Travis, who hasn't really showed face, FSU QB from last year, who led them to a 4 seed before he got injured, and obviously they dropped, but that's a different story. If you're planning on having him or a different successor take over soon, listen, you need to start planning for that, but right now that's obviously not the plan.
Right.
You're going all in, which means you need to figure it out now, not next month, not next year. No, we already had the freaking year while Aaron Rodgers was out. You better figure this thing out now because the clock is ticking. The clock is not on the Jets' side. One thing that could help the Jets, though, is Davante Adams, who has probably played his last game for the Raiders, and he's requested a trade. The team seems to be have mutual feelings about moving on from him. So he's 99% chance going to be moving on. The question is just where's he going? Because the Jets are a potential suitor and are the favorites to land him. He said he wants to, not that he has to, but he would like to play for a QB that he's played with before.
He said officially that his favorite spot was the Jets.
So that leaves the Jets
and the Saints.
And the Saints. Now the Steelers and Commanders have also been listed as possible suitors, and the Steelers does make sense. They've had some success this year. Where do you guys think that Davante Adams ends up?
No, I don't think it's going to be the Jets. If the Jets do trade for him, I actually just think that's stupid. That's not their main issue.
Really?
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt, but they need to be using those trade assets somewhere else. They need to be using it on their O-line because they already got such a great wide receiver core anyway. We all know that. The reason why this offense is kind of struggling right now is because the ball can't even leave Aaron Rodgers' hand because all he's doing is just getting blitzed all the time and no one's protecting him, and he's 40 years old. He can't scramble. So there needs to be more of an emphasis on actually protecting the quarterback than just getting him more tools. Now I also don't think the Steelers could be a good option too. I don't really know if it would happen. Honestly, my pick is definitely the Commanders. I think that, and as strange as it sounds, because they're in like kind of they're obviously very hot right now, but they're not a playoff team, and they're not going to they can't be rushing this rebuild, but I think that really it makes sense for them because they don't have any high paid players right now. They don't have to worry about cap space or anything. Davante Adams just. It makes sense for them. Just get Jaden Daniels. Get Jaden Daniels a good wide receiver. He already has one. Get him another one, and just speed up this process. Keep on going along. And honestly, if they do manage to get him, they're not going from what I said. They're not a playoff team. They will become a playoff team to get Davante Adams. So, I think he makes the most sense for the Commanders here.
I mean,
not Trey, bro. No. You just said it yourself. You don't want to rush this rebuild. Getting Davante would rush this rebuild. You're gonna be wasting cap space on him. I know he only has 3 years left on his contract, but by then, I'd rather invest in other players in other positions. They already have Terry, Scary Terry. Come on.
They do have Scary Terry.
They have Scary Terry. He's just. I don't see it. I don't know why anybody would do that.
You mentioned cap space. That cap space is gonna be key because Davante Adams' contract is really backloaded.
Yes.
$17 million this year, and then $35 million annually. Wait, or I think $35 million annually over the next 2 years, right? Or is it 30? Or is that 35 start this year?
I'm looking at it right now.
Either way, though, the teams are actually. I mean, the report came out that teams want the Raiders to take on part of that salary, which is going to make sense. But it's also going to make him a more, I guess, viable. No, that makes teams with more cap space a more viable trade partner for the Raiders because I don't think the Raiders really care where they ship him off to.
No, they don't.
I don't think they care about his desires.
And importantly, too, I think they don't want to trade him to I don't think they actually want to trade him to an AFC person. They don't want to keep him inside of the AFC. They'd rather have him be in the NFC where they don't have to worry about him.
I think it's just as long as he's not in the division. And honestly, why do they even care? It's not like they're in contention.
They're not contending. That team is just in purgatory right now.
I don't think they have a good relationship with him. I think he's getting shipped off to wherever. It's not like he's, been around for a while, done a lot for them. They're taking it into account. No, they're shipping him off to wherever.
Right.
I think he does end up with the Jets. I think eventually they feel enough pressure to make that move. Is it the right move? That's another question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to call into question salary and whether or not you should be using trade assets on different targets. But I do think he ends up with the Jets. I think he's a great fit for the Steelers for where they're at this point in time. Obviously, other teams have been in the picture like the Cowboys and Ravens and a lot of contending teams. I've even heard like Chiefs, I think, especially with the Rashid Rice.
No, please. No.
I mean, I pray to God not. No. But I mean, those are other teams. But I think it's really mainly coming down to these four. I feel. I mean, at least at the present point in time, we might hear something different. But did you make a pick, Lewis?
No, I have not. I was gonna say the Ravens because First of all, I don't think it's gonna be the Jets because me and Trey were talking earlier about your friend. Very knowledgeable on football, so I'll take his word for it. But he does have a point that they don't need receivers. They have Garrett Wilson. They have Alan Lazard. They don't need any more receivers. They already have a good core, but what they need is an offensive line. So I don't see the reason why they put in so much money, and maybe some picks too, to go get a receiver that they don't need. But I think the Ravens, because, they're all in. They got Derrick Henry, and they need a better receiver. They only got Zay Flowers, who's a solid guy, but I don't think he's wide receiver one. And when you get Devontae, be a wide receiver one. You got Zay Flowers, perfect combo. Derrick Henry running the football. You saw that Monday Night Football game against the Bills?
Yep.
He just ran through them. He ran through them like they were nothing.
I'm gonna just say this to you right here. No one can hear this, but visually, just what you just said. But anyway, you mentioned the Ravens. The Ravens I think they're for real. I mean, you watch that Bills game from this past week. Listen, I know it's early, and I mentioned this yesterday on NFL Friday, but that's my pick to win the Super Bowl. The Ravens. I mean, listen, I think this is their best shot yet. Okay. Right, Lamar Jackson, Derek, come on. If they get Devontae Adams, I think that kind of pushes them over the edge as definitely. Right now, it's more like they're just my pick. There's a lot of teams in the mix. But I think if they do land Devontae Adams, who's stopping that offense at that point?
They got to put all the chips in. You got to go all in. You got Lamar, you got Derek. It's the perfect scenario right now. They need to do it now.
It's definitely. I always say that the Ravens. I think their worst problem, their only problem, is that they just don't have a great wide receiver room, like you were saying. Zay Flowers is no wide receiver one, but he is a great wide receiver two. Get Devontae Adams. You solve that problem, and you also have an amazing weapon for Lamar to throw to. With the Chiefs now losing Rice, I think if the Ravens do somehow manage to land that trade, they definitely are the number one contenders for the AFC. The Chiefs have now really taken a really big loss with this, so I think that Ravens do land this trade. Even if they don't land the trade, they're still really good. They're still really good running. The team's first 2 weeks didn't look good, but they're looking really solid now. They just absolutely killed the Bills, embarrassed them on Monday Night Football. They're looking scary.
Yeah, it's also just listen. Lamar Jackson has only lost to one NFC team, that being Daniel Jones and the Giants, which is very weird to say. But the Ravens already have a fantastic run game, obviously with Lamar and Derrick Henry. If you add Devontae Adams, that opens up the passing game more. at that point, yeah, it's just I don't know who's stopping this team, but I mean maybe if this team that I'm about to mention was playing as good as they could beat this Ravens team, even with Davante Adams, and that would be the Philadelphia Eagles. Because on paper, this team is really, really good. But at this point, it just seems that no one other than Saquon Barkley is playing up to par. He's been around for, 2 months, and he's their best player already, right? Jalen Hurts has had at least one turnover in 9 straight games. And, I mean, you could talk about injuries. I mean, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, guys like that didn't play the past week when they lost to the Buccaneers. But I don't think that excuses the fact that this team is just not playing like they should. This team on paper, and if you made a guess before the season started, should be in contention for a Super Bowl.
Right.
But now it looks like we're calling into question: are they even going to be like a wild card team?
I mean, I was very after that first game that the Eagles had, I unfortunately fell into the trap that they were going to be very good. And now it's just obviously not looking like that at all.
I did too.
They have so much talent on that team. It's really, honestly, when you look at it on paper, in my opinion, I think they are the best team in the NFL on paper. What they do have to do is get rid of Nick Sirianni.
I agree.
He is an absolutely terrible coach. I don't know how you could have a roster of that much talent and still be absolutely terrible with them. He needs to go. I think he's the coach besides Doug Peterson, who's on the biggest hot seat right now. So, and I don't think it's going to change. I don't think he's going to somehow manage to turn his coaching career around here. In order for Eagles to even make the playoffs, they gotta get rid of him. And if they want to make the Super Bowl, they gotta worry about making the playoffs first. And they gotta get rid of Nick Sirianni. Whoever else they bring in is probably gonna be better. It's gonna fix all their issues that they have on offense. But then
whoa, pump the brakes there.
Oh,
you make it sound too easy.
Okay, but listen, all right, Jalen Hurts has some stuff he has to fix too. Obviously that turnover problem is really bad that he has right now, and I don't think he's the best quarterback ever anyway. But listen, a lot of it's the coaching. If they do manage to just get a better offensive-minded coach, I think this could be absolutely it could work wonders for the Eagles.
I mean, what a 180 though, right? Just from making the Super
Bowl contenders, NFC, and then fell off completely. Not completely. Onto the Nick Sirianni. I think if he doesn't turn around things in 2 weeks, he's gone.
That's probably fair to say.
I agree.
He's gone.
That would be the right decision for the Eagles.
On the topic of Jalen Hurts, I think he's always had this turnover problem, but it's been shown more now than ever because of the changes in the offensive line. Yeah. Loss of Jason Kelce. The tush push. You've seen those fumbles when they've been trying to do it again, but it's just like a lack of chemistry with the offensive line, just showing Jalen Hurts' flaws.
All right, well, that does it for our NFL talk, but we're not done with football. When we come back in a couple minutes, we're going to be talking about college football, which is arguably more exciting than the NFL is right now.
How's it going, everyone? Will Talent here, your New York Giants beat reporter for the 2024 season. Follow alongside me at talent_Will on X to catch all of the updates on your New York Football Giants from MetLife Stadium. With rookie sensation Malik Neighbors and big free agent acquisition Brian Burns, WFUV Sports is the place for Big Blue coverage. WFUV, your home for New York sports.
what a game it was last week when Alabama took on Georgia. I remember I was texting back and forth with Tucker near the end of the game. That was an insane game, probably game of the year. And all I'm going to say is this. I'm just happy that this stupid Georgia streak narrative can finally end, because I don't care what anybody tells me. That streak ended last year. That streak ended when Alabama beat them in the SEC title game. I hate that the media has now twisted the streak into like, oh, they're on this massive win streak to now, oh, it's a regular season win streak. Shut up. The streak is done. They lost, okay? That end of story. I don't care if it's regular season, playoffs. They lost, and they lost again to Alabama, who's basically their kryptonite. I think Kirby Smart has,
I think, 1 for 6.
He's something like that. He's like, all of his losses, and all his losses except like 1 or 2 have been to Alabama, which is in the past few years, which is insane. Alabama is basically their kryptonite. You basically have, I mean, I would say Alabama was like the premier dynasty, and in the past few years, it's kind of become Georgia. So I mean, it's always exciting when these two teams face off. And Ryan Williams, I know we talked about him. I mean, whoa, 17 years old. I don't know. We were talking about this when I was 17 years old. I was sitting in a high school classroom and doing little boy stuff, and here this dude is
just dominating,
torching Georgia, and potential. I mean, might be a big NFL name one day.
Yeah, 6 catches, under 77 yards, and 1 touchdown. That 1 touchdown was massive for 75 yards. Like, I feel like everyone's seen that clip.
It's absolutely filthy.
Yeah, great catch, juke, spin move, running all the way down to the end zone. Oh, it just so cool.
The kid should still be taking pre-calculus.
He should be taking pre-calc. Yeah, you're right, Tucker.
Like, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, this kid is so young. I mean, it's kind of crazy that, here I am sitting in the studio talking about this kid who's 3 years younger than me. Like, it's really insane how amazing some of this young talent is that's coming into football. It feels like every year, the talent's getting younger and younger, and it doesn't matter how young they are. They just keep on getting better and better. It just shows how good. It just shows how good the how good like college football is becoming, and how good skill positions are developing as well. Obviously, wide receivers so heavily emphasized in today's high school football. We see how that's translating to college. Now, I do think that this was a really big quarterback shootout here. We got Carson Beck throwing for 27 for 50, 439 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. And Jalen Milroe, 27 for 33. Very good game by him. 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Now, you have to give credit to Georgia here. Going down that much in the first half is absolutely demoralizing for a football team. The fact that they were actually even able to come back and almost win this game, it shows a lot of fight for them. Unfortunately for them, it all just came down to one play. I think I remember seeing in the locker room that Kirby was talking to his boys afterwards, and he was saying, this game they fought the whole entire game. They were fighting strong, and all it was came down to one play. If that one play didn't happen, this could have totally gone to Georgia. So they don't got a lot to be upset about. I know losing to Alabama sucks. They're huge rivals, and you always want to win that game. But the fact that they were able to come back, it just shows their resilience. And I mean, all it was was that one play.
Yeah, I mean, I also think I don't know how controversial this is amongst this table right here, but Carson Beck is one of the most overrated QBs I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
He is only the name he is because he plays for Georgia. That's it.
You're completely right.
If he played on a different team, if he played on an team, if he played in the Big 12, this dude might not even get drafted.
Mm-hmm.
He's really not that good, and it showed in that first half. I mean, even in the second half, yeah, Georgia figured things out, but it wasn't the Carson Beck show that figured things out. I would also say that, I mean, first off, let me let you guys speak about Carson Beck. What do you guys think?
I feel like he's more like of a Stetson Bennett type character, just come back to play for Georgia. Great guy. He's doing good for the team, but like he's not the reason they're winning. He's just I wouldn't say a nobody quarterback, just, an average quarterback that fits the role perfectly for them, and this allows them to win these games.
I mean, I unfortunately see him going a lot. Like a lot of times, look at those mock drafts. There's a lot of people that have him going number 1 for some reason, and I mean that's just insane. He's when you look at him, I don't know. I don't really see anything that screams like even like a, I guess like a team that I guess a lottery pick. I know there's no lottery picks, but top 14 pick. There's just I don't know. I don't really see a lot of upside on him. He just seems like a kind of just a regular quarterback who's just doing not even very well. He's just doing okay on a really good team around him. I mean, he just has a lot of talent. So he has a lot of talent around him. So I don't know. I don't really see much coming out of him for this, even in the future in his NFL career. I don't know. There's just something really special about him.
You know who is better than him and who I'm shocked was projected to be lower than him in basically every mock draft up until this past week?
Who?
Who do you think? Who'd they play?
Wait, no, it's Jalen Miller. No way.
Yeah.
What?
Jalen Miller has been projected to be drafted after him basically all the way up until this past week, which I have never understood. Like, do people just that make these rankings just not watch college football? Because you could tell pretty clearly even from last year that Jalen Milroe is one of the best QBs in college football and is definitely better than Carson Beck. Yet every step of the way, Carson Beck has been ranked. I mean, I wouldn't say ranked, but mock draft ranked. However the wording is for it, he's been higher, which just doesn't make sense to me. Where do you think Georgia ends up in at the end of the season? Do you think they're like a fringe contender? Like, where do you think they end up in the playoff picture?
I mean, it's still Georgia. They still got so much talent on that team, and while their QB situation is a bit strange, I still think this team is still going to be definitely a powerhouse by the time they get to the end of the season. They're not going to be like they were in previous years, where it was just kind of like, all right, we already know Georgia's going to win everything, but they are not a team to be slept on, not a team to disrespect. I think that they're going to end up, and they're not going to be the number 1 team, but they'll probably be around number 5, 6, 4, something like that.
Yeah, I think with this new playoff format, they're going to find a way to sneak in, even though they're not, in past years they've been dominating, and like now, I feel like they're going to find a way to sneak in, but they're not the team they used to be.
I have a question. Do you guys feel better about Georgia coming out of this game than Alabama maybe? And here's the reason why. Because Alabama looked like they got figured out in the second half. And while they are number 1 in the AP poll, and reservedly so, and they probably will finish, I mean, I guess we'll talk about this later, they probably will finish number 1 in my opinion, they got figured out, and if these two teams meet again, and I don't think it's going to be the SEC title game, especially with Texas and Tennessee in the SEC picture, and obviously Georgia having already one loss, amongst those teams, and tiebreakers and whatnot, I don't think they're going to be in the title game. But if these two teams meet again in the playoffs, it could get scary for Alabama purely because the second half just went completely the other way.
I mean, yeah, that's a very good point that Alabama might be coming out of this game a bit more worried than they were. Like, I kind of like what I was saying, like how Georgia really, that first half was awful, but they really started to figure themselves out in the second half. Now the next game that they're going to have, if they do play each other, that they're that they're going to go into that game basically with the same game plan that they did in that second half. So you gotta hope that Bama is able to come up with a game plan of their own that is going to be able to counter whatever Georgia's going to throw at them. And kind of like what I was saying, Alabama they got like bailed out by just an amazing talent. So I do agree with that. I think that Alabama's probably coming out of this game actually, even though with a win, they're coming out of this game a bit more nervous than Georgia is.
And guys, just to add to that bit about Georgia, we're going to find out a lot during that Georgia-Texas game where Georgia goes on the road against the Longhorns. I think that's going to be a big one for where Georgia's going to kind of land in the CFP.
I mean, we're not just going to find – yes, we'll find out from that. That's a huge game. But we'll get to Texas a little bit later, but Georgia's also being tested by Ole Miss and Tennessee later on this season. They got a much tougher road than Texas, I think, has left. And you could argue they have a tougher road than Alabama too. So it's going to be tough. But Lewis, what do you think?
I think Alabama needs to sit down and find a new game plan, because if Georgia found them out by halftime, there going to be way better teams that can do it easier and faster. So they're going to have to sit down and figure something out. Just because at this rate, if like they found out that quick this early on in the season, they're going to have to find something new.
All right, now let's move to a different conference. Let's talk about the Big 12, and more specifically, talk about Colorado. Travis Hunter, obviously making a lot of noise over there in Boulder. Do you guys think he's going to be a two-way player in the NFL?
No, I don't.
No.
I think that's just like basically almost impossible to do in the NFL. With you look at all these players and you want them to be specialized at one thing. Well, I think that's something that's going on a lot today in the NFL is that, and actually just with every sports league, it's just that it's not looking for general players anymore. You're looking for people who specialize in one certain area more. Now, I think that Travis Hunter is going to become. He's going to leave that wide receiver behind back in college. He's going to become an elite cornerback. Now, if you do need to throw him in at wide receiver, if let's say your wide receiver core is getting really injured or something, then you could do that. But you're not going to be throwing him out there all the time, even when that core is injured. You just want to it's nice to have that wide receiver ability as a backup option, but I mean, lasting as long as he does in college football games, that's just not going to translate over to the NFL. There's just like as we see, look what's happening with Bryce Young. The athleticism is totally different in the NFL. It's going to be so much harder to keep up, and really just you get exhausted so much more quicker. So I think there's really no shot that that two-way player is going to translate. It's really cool that it's happening in college, and I have so much respect for Travis Hunter because of that. But I don't think this is going to go over to the NFL. This is kind of just a college stunt that's happening, and he's just going to become a really, really good cornerback in the NFL.
The NFL players are they're huge guys, way bigger than the college. You got guys coming from studying for their calculus test to go play Travis Hunter, and they're getting cooked by him. And then you have these guys that do it for their whole life. It's their life. They live, breathe, play football.
Exactly.
Everything. They're the athletic. Like you said, Bryce Young. He's one of the examples. He dominated college, and now he's struggling. He's not even starting on his own team anymore after being the former first overall pick. And I feel like Travis can't transfer that. But he obviously be a dominant cornerback, like you said. I feel like he should translate and leave behind the wide receiver and just go for that full head. But I don't think it's gonna happen.
Honestly, for me, I'm going to disagree with you guys.
Oh.
I think he can be a two-way player. I think he's excellent enough. I think he's shown it so far this season on both sides of the ball. And I get it. At the NFL, it's a tougher level. You're going to be dealing with bigger, faster guys. But I think that if you can handle it at this level, at the college level, in a Power 4 conference, he might not be as good at both as he could be if he just focused on one at that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think overall it's going to be a huge asset to a team especially a team that's really struggling. And I guess that'll kind of lead me into the next topic, which is I want to get our predictions for number 1 NFL draft pick next year based on what we've seen so far this year. Because based off of what I just said and what he adds to both sides of the ball, I'm taking Travis Hunter at number 1.
I mean, honestly, I think I would do the same thing too. Travis Hunter is there's a lot of good players in this draft, but Travis Hunter is just truly a generational talent. You don't see players like this often. I mean, and I know his like I was saying that his two-way, I don't think it's going to go over to the NFL, but that two-way is a huge selling point because not only you're getting 2 positions out of the guy, you're probably not going to use you're probably not going to use that wide receiver too much, but if you really need to, you got it there. And there's a lot of teams that could use him right now, especially at the cornerback. I feel like there's a lot of teams. I don't think my Jaguars are going to finish. No, I don't think my Jaguars are going to get the number 1 pick. But if they did, I would absolutely be going Travis Hunter right now. There's a lot of teams in the NFL that do not have a good backfield at all, and with the amount of skills, wide receivers that are coming in, you need to have people that can keep up with them. So Travis Hunter, cornerback at number 1, definitely not usual, but I think it's completely warranted.
I think right now my Giants are gonna be the most likely to get the first round pick. So far they're doing great with Malik Neighbors, but he's in concussion protocol. He won't play this Sunday, and I feel like Daniel Jones has to get out, and this is the chance for them to get Jalen Milroe and get him first instead of Travis Hunter and build off of that. But that's specifically for the Giants. If any team like the Jaguars, hopefully for your sake, Trey. Yeah, you guys can turn it around, hopefully. I think Travis Hunter is a great choice, but I would take Jalen Milroe. He's currently the favorite for the Heisman.
All right, well, we got 2 Travis Hunter, 1 Jalen Milroe. Now, to wrap up this segment, everybody, I want you to predict the final 1 to 12 seeds for the CFP. And keep in mind that the top 4 seeds go to a power conference champion, and then there's also another seed remaining for a group of 5 champion. So, let's hear it.
I mean, I think Alabama's going to finish Alabama's probably going to finish in that top 4. I think Texas is going to finish number 1, probably then Alabama, and then.
Whoa!
Sorry.
Yeah. Only one.
Right.
Only one. It's the Power 4 conference champions, so you got to pick one.
Texas.
All right.
Okay. Actually, never mind. I think Texas is going to finish over Alabama. So I definitely think Texas is going to finish at that number 1. We're going to throw in not even going in order. Alabama and Georgia are going to make up that kind of around 4, 5, 6 spot. I think Miami, especially with how Cam Ward's playing right now, they're going to be they're kind of a lock for the playoffs. I feel at this point, or close to a lock, I think at least. And then you're just going to have a lot of your usual teams like Ohio State and Tennessee, maybe Penn State and Oregon is going to come in. But I think a lot of when you get down to the round of 10 to 12 seeds, it's kind of up in the air because there's a lot of teams that are making a good case for it right now, but aren't there's a lot of competition around for those lower seeds. Actually, I think that the University of Las Vegas, they kind of got, and I'm so unfortunate for them that they kind of got robbed by ref ball yesterday with Syracuse. But if they somehow manage to just keep this going, I actually think that they can somehow sneak their way in.
All right, but let's get a definitive 1 to 12. You need me to come back to you?
Yeah, come back to me.
Okay, Lewis.
Obviously, it's going to be Alabama.
Obviously, okay.
I feel like they got it. For me, it's a mix between Texas and Tennessee for the 2, but I'll say
I already told you power conference champions.
Oh, power. All right, then. You have to get back to me too. I had the whole thing ready for this.
All right. Then give me just 1 to 12 regular, just if you're doing AP poll.
All right, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Miami, Penn State, LSU. What am I at? 8, 9?
I don't know.
Penn State.
You told me you had 1 to 12.
Penn State. I just have a list there. USC and Clemson.
Okay.
That's
you want me to go first, or you got it?
I'll go. Okay. All right. Well, I said that Texas is going to be number 1. I think that Texas is going to finish the season ranked number 1. Alabama's probably number 2. Either or is going to be with them. Then I think I'm going to have Tennessee, then Georgia at number 4, probably with Ohio State 5, Miami 6. Then we're going to get into a bit more murky water territory. Probably going to have Notre Dame plays such bad teams. Probably Notre Dame at 7, Oregon 8, Penn State 9, Ole Miss at 10, maybe Clemson 11. I said at University of Las Vegas number 12.
That's crazy, especially after they lost to Syracuse.
They got robbed.
Right. No, they didn't. Syracuse was a better team. We all knew that going into it. UNLV should have never been ranked. But I'll give you my 1 to 12 for the CFP. We'll see if this pans out. And if it does, I mean, I'm all I am is just backing up my claim as a college football prophet here on the station. Just go back and listen to College Gridiron if you have any questions from last year's playoffs. But I got Alabama number 1, Ohio State number 2, Miami at 3, BYU 4, Texas at 5, Oregon at 6, Georgia at 7, Tennessee at 8, Penn State at 9, Ole Miss at 10, Notre Dame at 11. I know, Tucker, you're happy about that. And Boise State at 12. So that does it for college football. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit of hockey. Season got underway yesterday, and there's currently a game going on right now. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then after that, we have a last hour of baseball.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Lou Orlando.
And I'm Colin Loughran.
And we're 2 of your main hosts for WFUV Sports' NHL podcast, 5 on 3.
We'll keep you updated on the Rangers, Islanders, Devils, and of course, the Stanley Cup Final.
Home ice for all things NHL. 5-on-3.
Hi, my name is Ryan Rucco, WFUV class of 2008. WFUV is your home for all things Fordham athletics, with live coverage of Fordham football, Fordham men's and women's basketball, in addition to our Saturday show, One-on-One. Stay right here on 90.7 FM for all things WFUV sports.
I have to correct myself earlier. That Devils-Sabres game is over, and it was probably over a long time, a long time before it actually ended, if you know what I mean, because it's the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, are we really expecting them to do anything, even if it's against the... I mean, I guess the Devils are a lot better than last year. I mean, at least we think. That'll remain to be seen. We'll have a better idea as the season continues to get going, but I think just based off of what we anticipated coming into the season, the Sabres never stood a chance against the Devils, either earlier today or yesterday. Devils won 3-1 today, 4-1 yesterday, but let's talk a little just about the season in general that's about to come underway. I think the rest of the opening games are coming on Tuesday, and I'm just so excited because, listen, Let's start off local. Let's start off with the Rangers because I think, listen, I'm a big Rangers fan, and you guys seem to know quite a bit about the Rangers. So let's talk about them. I think this year is do or die. I think this is it. I mean,
I agree totally.
Listen, your team's not getting younger. I mean, yes, some of your guys are young and they have time, like Alexis Lafreniere, but. Right. I mean, I guess we have to mention that Sam Rosen is retiring after this year. So, we're not gonna have the same commentator anymore after this year.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, just listen to him for so long, so it's gonna be sad. But not only that, how many times can you run it back with the same squad and fail time and time again? How many times do you have to run it back and understand that the guys on this team just disappear in the playoffs time and time again before you say, listen, we're done trying this. You guys are garbage during the playoffs. Let's move on. I think that this is also the Rangers' best shot. Why? Because last year, even while Panarin, Mika, and Kreider were all hot garbage in the Eastern Conference Finals, Panarin didn't score until the last game with like 1 minute left. Even while that had happened, they made it to 6 games with the Panthers.
Right.
And if you saw that Panthers team, that team was really freaking good, right? So and they were I came on here, I think it was 1-on-1 or 5-on-3 or something like that. I predicted in the Eastern Conference Finals going into it, the Panthers were going to come out of that Final Four as champs, and they did. So the fact that you can play like crap like that and still manage to take the Panthers to 6. Now imagine if one of those players, Panarin, Mika, or Kreider, does show up. Now Lafreniere is going to get better. Hopefully Igor's the same. You add a Riley Smith as your first-line right winger in the place of Blake Wheeler or the rotation of right wingers that they had in the playoffs, right? Philip Hedl is going to be better. He's going to be healthy this year. Yep. Fox was banged up last year, so, I mean, I don't anticipate him being much worse in the playoffs. You just need 1 or 2 of your guys that didn't show up in the playoffs, and there were like 5. You need 1 or 2 of them to show up, and you're probably golden for a shot at the the Stanley Cup Final, especially because the Panthers did lose a couple pieces. They lost Brandon Montour, and a couple other guys. So, I mean, I think you can't you can't get much worse than the Rangers did last year in the playoffs as far as your supposed star players. As long as they stay healthy, barring any crazy injuries, if they're healthy going into the postseason, I think they should make it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
I think what would benefit them a lot is if they didn't play against the Panthers in the playoffs, because a big problem with the Rangers is they have a big lack of physicality, and Panthers just play probably one of the most physical brands of hockey out there. So with the Panthers definitely getting worse this year, they did not get better. If they're somehow able to avoid them in the playoffs, I think there's just that much of an even bigger chance that they will make it to Stanley Cup Final.
I don't think you're avoiding the Panthers.
I mean,
there's no way.
I know, but if that does happen, if that hypothetical does happen, then I really think there's a really strong chance that they'll make it to the Stanley Cup. Now, with the Rangers, what's good with them is that they brought back most of their guys from last season. They're running it back. We saw how poor they did in the playoffs, but they were able to keep up with such an amazing team in the Panthers while playing that poor. Now, just have some of those guys step up, and you're golden. Now, the problem with this team though is that, like you said, they have to win it this year. They have really big contracts coming up that they need to address, and they're going to have to lose people next season just because of those contracts. Lafreniere and Shesterkin are due for some big money, but in order to pay that money, you're going to have to let go of people. Lafreniere is probably going to get around like $9 million, $8.7 million.
I think this season, those two, apart from Panarin, are your two best players.
Yeah, I mean, like Lafreniere just really showed up. I mean, during the playoffs, I really think Lafreniere was probably one of the best Rangers during the playoffs.
We know he's going to break out just based off of that.
Yeah, like he looked phenomenal. He shows up when it matters, and obviously Shesterkin's he's absolutely amazing, and he's going to get paid a whole lot of money too. He's probably going to break the goalie market. So, like, I mean, we might see a record deal here. So, the Rangers, they got to win it all this year, because if they don't win it all, they're going to have really bad contract situations, and I really think we're going to start seeing this team go downhill after this year. So, this is their best opportunity to win it, but it needs to all come together this year.
Yeah, I was at actually at Game 5 in Fort Lauderdale, seeing the Rangers play, and they were just like, the Panthers were pushing them around, and it was so sad to see because we had such a good shot that last year, and it's just like, this is our last.
Game 5? You mean Game 6?
Game
5 was here.
The
Rangers at home ice.
Game 6. You're right. Game 6, we lost. I was just defeated. It was just like, getting punched in the gut, and we had such a good shot. Panthers completely screwed it up for us, and you're right. It is our last chance. We got to pay Igor, especially our star goalie, and it's just our last shot. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing is, the Rangers need to add somebody at the trade deadline this year. You need to add, because listen, Trouba, I mean, hopefully he's better than he was last year in the postseason. If you guys saw some of the clips, not a good look for Trouba, not a good look for your team captain. The Rangers need to figure it out at the deadline. Add hopefully a good right winger. Riley Smith is not really somebody you want as your first line right winger. He's not bad. He has a championship. He has championship experience with the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, I think you want him. That's somebody that you would like as your third line right winger, especially because Kaapo Kakko is trash. He probably needs to go. But even somebody like him, you can't get worse than you did last year.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the prove-it contract, so listen, you're either going to play good or you're getting moved. And if he gets moved, you probably package him with a piece for a better right winger, or you send him off for a defenseman, and you bring in Brennan Othman or somebody like that. You still have Johnny Brzezinski, Rempe, and Edstrom, right? Like those are your fourth liners. They're not great, but I mean they'll get the job done. I mean, I guess the one thing we forgot to mention is that Barclay Goodrow had some heroics last year.
Yeah,
and so did Alex Wenberg, and
they
were pretty much horrid other than those heroics. But that's also what helped them stay in the series against the Panthers. So, I mean, there is that to take into account. But otherwise, you also need a couple defensemen, because right now, I mean, Lindgren is always hurt, right? That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I respect him a lot for putting his body on the line. He's a good I guess, pairing mate with Adam Fox, but at the same time, he's not fantastic, right? I think the Miller-Trouba pairing has to go. That cannot happen again, because those two just don't gel together.
Right.
I think you got to do the Miller-Schneider pairing, which hopefully they stay healthy. You don't got to worry about that too much. And then you also got to worry about can they ship off Trouba midseason?
I don't think so, because I just don't really know who wants that contract for the player that he is. It's like and it sucks too. This is the case that's going on with the captain right now, is that there's no way you're not getting him. There's no way you're getting him back next season. Like he has to go. It's just not working out for the team, and that contract really hurt them this season, this offseason. The fact that they weren't able to sign another big piece for them, and they had to keep Jacob Trouba, was just it really hurts. It really hurts them for this last year that they have to really win a cup. Now I do think that that Barclay Goodrow, he's a great playoff performer. He always performs really good in the playoffs. What was good for them, at least, was that you don't have to pay Goodrow $3.6 million. You just bring in Sam Carrick instead and sign him to a $1 million deal. So it was a good little replacement for him, while not actually really expending that much money. Now it's just, and what's good with that is that it won't affect their cap space for next year either. I do think that this Trouba situation is going to get really messy. They need if they can land a trade for him at the deadline, that would be absolutely huge, because, if you're trading a player like Trouba, you're going to get someone really good back. Now, I don't know who that player is going to be. Probably going to be someone on defense, but you got to hope that you can maybe ship him out, but I don't know if anyone is going to want Trouba.
You just need to make that move at the deadline. And otherwise, pair Zach Jones or Rubeal with him for now. Hopefully one of them does work out. But just Chris Drury needs to be all in with the team this year. And you're right. When you said that it hurt him in the offseason, my first reaction was they had to think ahead about Lafreniere and Igor for the upcoming offseason. But at the same time, if you didn't have Trouba, you could use that money to sign somebody like a Jonathan Marsh or so, which would have been really, really nice. But obviously now he's on the Predators, so that's not a possibility. But let's get to some. I don't know. It's not really full on predictions, but let's get to some overrated and underrated teams you think there are going into the season, and just give a quick reason why.
Okay.
You can go more than one if you'd like.
I think we're looking at overrated teams, and I hate to say this, because I really, really want them to win. It's the Oilers. They looked, and I know it's only the preseason, but they looked really poor in the preseason, and it's kind of scary that they've been looking like this, because you really think, all right, you really think they would be coming back with such a vengeance that they'd be really angry after such a loss. We saw Connor McDavid in that locker room afterwards. He's absolutely furious. But I don't know what's happening. It looks like Skinner has returned to his old Skinner self, where he's just absolutely terrible. Like, Skinner played on top of his head this playoffs, and they needed that to happen. We maybe thought that Skinner maybe start picking his game up, but it just looks like it went back to old Skinner again. They need that playoff Skinner back in order to get anywhere close to what they need to get to last year. So that's my overrated right now. I really hope that changes, because I want McDavid to get his ring. Underrated teams. I think, and honestly, I know there's a lot of hype around them right now, but actually, I think it's going to be the Devils. I think that the Devils, they obviously last season were very hyped, and they came up short. Now that hype has died down a bit, but they addressed a big problem they had in their goaltending, and now they got Markstrom on the team. And, we saw what he did. Even that first game, that save that he made was absolutely amazing. And last year, no Devils goalies making that save last year. So you got yourself a I'm not going to say a great goalie, but he's a solid, good goalie that you have in net now. And if that's the problem that you need to fix, the rest of the Devils roster is looking really good. So I think that they might finally make that jump this year.
I think for me, overrated is also. I hate to copy you, but it's also gonna be the Oilers for me. They had a great playoff run, but I just feel like they're not gonna reach that kind of standard. They had so many great moments throughout the season, and I don't feel like they can recreate that magic. For underrated, this is gonna be kind of hard. I would have to say maybe the Panthers, because I know you were hating on them earlier, but I feel like it's still the same team. They're the defending champions. I know they haven't gotten any better at all, but I still feel like they have a good shot. I feel like they still have a good shot at it.
Okay. Well, my overrated team, I have a few.
All right.
So let's start off with the Winnipeg Jets. because
That's a good
they lost some pieces and they got smacked by the Avs in the first round. So I don't see them getting any better. So I just don't think that they're going. They were once number 1 in the power rankings. I think it was unanimous amongst the 5-on-3 crew last year. Not the same anymore.
Hellebuck looked tragic in the playoffs.
Well, that was also because his defense was trash. I don't think it's really Hellebuck's fault.
That's true.
He said it himself. He said it was the best he ever played in the playoffs. So, I'll take his word for it. Next is the team that knocked them out, the Colorado Avalanche. Everyone is always like the Avalanche are great. Problem is their goalie problem is still here.
Yep.
Georgiev. Glad the Rangers got rid of him because he is atrocious at times.
Yeah.
And that will cost the Avalanche unless they manage to trade for another goalie. I don't know who it's going to be.
If they do get a goalie, it'll be great, but they need to get a goalie.
And next is the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, self-explanatory. Lost. I think they lost Will Carrier, lost Jonathan Marchessault, Chandler Stevenson as well, as I believe. I think those are the pieces they lost. Or maybe not Carrier. I'm confused. I know they lost Marchessault for sure.
Yeah.
They lost a couple other pieces. That's gonna be a huge hit. Especially that was your playoff MVP. So I mean that's the guy that won you the championship. You let him walk. Not a good look. Now underrated. I got the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think a lot of people are underrating them just because they always fail in the playoffs, but they have a new coach. I think that's going to make a big difference for them. I think the Boston Bruins are underrated because, listen, the Bruins, they lost Jake DeBrusk, but they got Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov, so that's going to be a huge plus for them. I think they've improved, and I also think everyone's underrating them because they don't have Swayman on a deal yet. But I think, listen, if they don't get Swayman on a deal, they're in for disaster.
Yeah.
But if they get him on a deal, they're going to be better than they were last year. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're still going to be good. Yes, they lost Stamkos, but they got Jake Gensel. They're going to be all right. But that does it for our hockey segment. When we come back from a break, it's time to talk about baseball, which I know Lewis is excited for.
Very excited.
It's WFUV New York, public media from Fordham University. Come for the music and stay for the community. Listen at 90.7 FM or at WFUV.org.
Hey, it's Lou Orlando. Alongside Nick Palmer and Will Talent, I'm one of your 3 New York Yankees beat reporters for the 2024 season. The Yanks are looking to surge back to postseason form behind the incredible two-headed monster that is Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. I'll have you covered every step of the way with live updates, on-field interviews, post-game analysis, and more. Follow along on Twitter at SweetLou with 5 U's to keep up with the Bronx Bombers on their chase for 28. WFUV, your home for New York sports.
Welcome back to One on One, New York's longest-running sports call-in show. We got a special guest right now. We're bringing in WFUV's own Yankees beat reporter Wilt Talent. So we got 4 guys now talking on the show, which is going to be fun. But let's talk about Yankees. I had mentioned that we were going to talk baseball for this last hour. So the Yankees play tonight against the Kansas City Royals, and to me, I think this is the clearest path the Yankees have ever had to the World Series. And to me, I mean, I don't know if I expect them to win the World Series, depending on who comes out of the National League and depending on how the Yankees perform in these next couple rounds. But I think that if you don't make the World Series this year, it's embarrassing.
I don't mean to copy you, but this is the easiest path in a long time. We don't have to face the Astros. We don't have to face Baltimore. And for me, those were like the two biggest contenders that like actually had a chance of beating the Yankees. Right now, the Royals, they're nothing to scoff at. They got Bobby Witt, they got Salvador Perez, they got Waka. They have all these great players, but I feel like they are substantially worse, or not worse, but not as great as a competition as these other teams. And we potentially might play Cleveland. I feel like we could confidently beat them too and get to the World Series. For the National League, that's a whole different monster of itself. The Dodgers could come out, the Padres, the Phillies. Those three teams I'm scared of, but right now, as a team, I'm thinking about let's just get to the World Series. Let's get through one game at a time.
Now, I think that really what's most important here for the Yankees is that there's three players that are going to be absolutely key for this playoff run. You got Giancarlo Stanton, Jazz Chisholm, and Austin Wells. They need to play this. They need to play very well, and they need to hit very well. If they're able to hit well, they're basically what the Royals' game plan might be, especially if they're not hitting well, is that all right, they're just gonna let Judge walk. They're gonna pitch around him. Now, if you have these guys that are going basically like if you have these guys that are going after him, there has to be a bit less. There has to be more of an emphasis on actually pitching to Judge, because you don't want these hitters to just keep on getting on the base and really just scoring more points. Now, I think that especially with Austin Wells, he's been struggling recently, and he needs to get his batting back. He's been 8 for 65 at bat in September, absolutely awful. But if he's able to somehow turn that around, this could be really important for basically getting Judge the opportunity to actually get at bats and not getting walked. And really the same thing for Jazz Chisholm and Giancarlo Stanton. It's between these three players, and these three players need to really have a good series here in order to get Aaron Judge's opportunity.
Yeah, it's all about the pitching for the Yankees, how they're going to manage the pitching. If the offense doesn't hit, that's a different story. But in terms of the pitching, they need to be able to manage it accordingly. They left Stroman off. They left Leiter off the roster. They put Duke Ellis on there for defensive and a defensive replacement and for speed. So if that's the angle they're going to take, fine. But the pitching needs to hold true. And this is, we could call it easy all we want. It's not easy, to be honest with you. It is just absolutely 100% not easy. The three starters that they're going to face all have the capability of carving out this Yankees lineup and could completely dismantle them. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. The Royals starting pitching is not to be laughed at. I know they're playing the AL Central too if they do advance to the American League Championship Series, but sure, is it easier than the path that it's been in the past? Sure. It doesn't matter, though. This is October. All three of those other teams are here for a reason. The Detroit Tigers were one of the best teams in baseball for the last 6 weeks of the season. So it's easier that Houston and Baltimore aren't there, sure, but you're playing against some really gritty ball clubs.
Now, for everyone who's watching on YouTube, I know Will Talon is not on camera, but that was Will Talon talking right there. Now, Will, I do have a question for you. You said that this Royals team is still going to be a challenge for sure, and whether it's the Tigers or the Guardians. Now, while they're not easy, do they scare you?
No teams in the American League scared me personally in terms of the Yankees. They matched up well against every single side, or every single matchup that you could come up with, including Baltimore and Houston. So if that's the case, sure, they could make a World Series run. It was a lighter American League this year. The National League is significantly more challenging, and it's just made up of better ball clubs, 100%. But the Yankees match up well against any potential matchup that they could have had. But the Tigers are hot. The Royals are hot. They just took down Baltimore, who won the season series against the Yankees. Cleveland, it was right behind the Yankees until the very last day of the season. So none of these teams scare me. What scares me is the Yankees. The Yankees scare me. What kind of Yankees are we going to get? Are they going to be June through July Yankees? Are they going to be down the stretch Yankees? Are they going to be the April to May Yankees? I have no idea. It was not a dominant season, but they did win they did have the best record in the American League. So the only fear I have is with the Yankees themselves. Are they going to play themselves out of the postseason? I don't know.
I'll tell you guys what my biggest fear is of the Yankees. That's Aaron Judge. Because every year, year after year, this man does not show up in the postseason. Every year in the regular season, he's amazing. Everybody loves him. Everybody's like, this is the best player on the Yankees. I was talking to Bobby about this before the show. I don't think Aaron Judge is the best player on the Yankees. I think Juan Soto is, because that's somebody who's proven that he can show up in the postseason. He's won a championship. And meanwhile, Aaron Judge is just consistently a non-factor. And on a championship team, the way Aaron Judge plays in the postseason, he really should be batting 8th or something on a championship team, the way he usually hits. So the question is really, is Aaron Judge going to be who we see in the regular season this year, finally? Or is he just going to repeat every postseason he's had before?
Aaron Judge batting 8th? Is that what you just said?
That's like the most. Well, I didn't want to say anything. I want to let him finish.
That's a crazy take, Will.
The way
That
he's
is a
played
crazy take,
before in the postseason?
I don't care.
You can't say that,
man.
but saying I love Juan Soto, but he's not better than Aaron Judge. He's not. It's close, somewhat close, but I wouldn't put them in the same room. They're still the two best players on the team by far, but he's not better than Aaron Judge. No.
The numbers don't lie. He definitely hasn't been that great in the postseason. 2022, he breaks the American League home run record and then does nothing in the postseason. But he's going to win his second American League MVP. You need him in that lineup construction that he's been in all year. If he doesn't perform, he doesn't perform. It adds to the narrative of, is Aaron Judge not a playoff performer? Is he just a regular season guy? But he is definitely the best player on the Yankees, 100%. He's the captain of the team. He elevates to the moment when they need him to in the regular season. He's gotten better at that as his career has gone on. Juan Soto definitely adds that clutch gene. He's always had that clutch gene where Judge has developed it over time. But it's definitely a valid question. Is he going to show up? Now he has that cushion behind him in Juan Soto. That definitely helps. That could help him get to where he needs to be to perform. Because instead of Aaron Judge being the only source of offense, now you have Juan Soto who can add to the hitting is contagious narrative. Maybe that gets Judge going. But he's going to bat third. He's going to play center field. He's going to be their best player. If he doesn't perform, then that's another conversation to have in the offseason. But you have to roll with what you got. You can't just look at the numbers from his past postseason experiences and say, yeah, we got to switch this up drastically. No, you got to put him in the 3-hole. You got to put him in center field. You got to do whatever it was that was working for the last 5.5 months and run it back. That's why you won 94 games.
I think you guys did confuse what I said earlier. I didn't mean that they should actually hit Aaron Judge 8th right now. What I meant to say is if we're just going solely off of his track record and you just took like a template of what a championship team should look like, I'm saying in that case,
Aaron Judge would be batting 8th?
Yes, on a championship caliber.
So he would be batting 8th on a championship. Like, no.
This is a championship. This is a contender right now. We are in a contending team.
Yeah, but we don't know what we're getting out of him this year. That's why I'm saying you don't do this right now.
Will said it perfectly. You know, it doesn't matter about his postseason. Regular season, he dominates. He is the captain. He is the captain, and you still have to put him where he was and how the roster has been, the lineup's been the entire season. If you change it, it's gonna hurt them more.
No, I didn't say you should change it right now.
I mean, no, you shouldn't change it at all. I don't think so. Even if he struggles, you should still keep him at third.
I mean, and I think he's kind of set up for success here with Soto being in front of him. It's going to give Judge a whole lot of RBI opportunities.
Especially if Glaber stays hot, too. Those are two guys that get on base right away. Glaber's been fantastic since the end of the All-Star break. Juan Soto's been fantastic all year long. So, there's more opportunities for Judge to succeed. Will he rise to the occasion on October? We'll see. We will see. I know the numbers aren't great. They're very bleak. 2022 is a big blemish because he won the MVP and he did all of that in that season and did not show up, and they get swept by Houston in 4 games in the championship series. All you can do is hope that's not the case, but you can't dwell on it. You can't dwell on it because you need to move. You need to keep moving. Aaron Judge is one of the best hitters, if not the best hitter in Major League Baseball right now. That guy's got to be batting third, second, fourth, whatever it is. He's got to be there.
Now let's talk about the third outfielder for the Yankees. There's obviously the debate of whether or not it should be Alex Verdugo or Jason Dominguez. I think we all agree that Verdugo provides the better glove, a little more experience, and then Jason Dominguez is probably the better bat. if you were Aaron Boone today, who are you putting in that spot?
Alex Verdugo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Dominguez.
I would go Verdugo just because he's hit really well down the stretch. The last 25 games, he's hit over like 270, 280. He's definitely looking a little bit more comfortable. And his defense, Dominguez looked a little bit better in left field. He's also 21 years old. Verdugo, he's like 28. And he's got this postseason experience under his belt with different teams as well. You just want that guy in your lineup. You want the veteran in the lineup. You don't need to force anything with Dominguez. Brian Cashman said we were going to call him up if there was a spot. They called him up. They got that sample size at the major league level at the end of September. They gave him 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, whatever it was. It's not that he didn't play terribly, but he didn't play well enough to say, yeah, he needs to be the starting left fielder in the postseason. People wanted that because they weren't giving him the chance to show them that. Then he played. He did okay. He didn't do amazing. Verdugo ended up playing a little bit better. You got to go Verdugo, though. The defense matters so much more in the postseason than it did last week.
And I don't feel like it completely eliminates Dominguez either. You can still pinch hit him, put him in the scenario. If, Verdugo's not doing too hot, you can throw him in there. Some games, further on, maybe we get to the ALCS and Verdugo injury. Anything happens, you can put Dominguez in there.
I mean, I'm with you on that. I think, well, it is worth mentioning, first of all, that I did ask that, but also Verdugo has been locked into to be playing left field tonight. But I think that's worth mentioning that, Jason Dominguez is a good pinch hitter option to have.
Totally.
If it comes down to it and you need, you're down one, whatever, you got somebody on base, it's the 8th or the 9th, that's a situation where you're going to put Jason Dominguez in. Especially, do you guys know where Verdugo's going to be in the lineup?
I don't think they announced it yet. They'll probably announce it in the next couple hours.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say around like 8 or 9, probably 7, 8 or 9. They're not going to have him. He's been batting down there pretty frequently towards the end of the season. So I don't really imagine them changing that up at all. But with Dominguez, he provides a lot more versatility too. He's a switch hitter. They're going to be playing against Cole Reagans in Game 2. It's a lefty. Could very well see Dominguez get a start out there. But if Verdugo plays well, this is the thing. If you win this first game, you could play all the matchups that you want, but you should roll out the same guys. If you win Game 1, you roll out the same guys Game 2. If you lose Game 2, then you have a conversation. But whatever was working, you got to keep it working.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, if Dominguez is going to be, if Verdugo is going to be at the bottom of the order, then you could also put Dominguez in, even if like bottom 8, bottom 9, no one on base. You like that half of the inning just started, because then you got 1 or 2 guys, and then you have Soto and Judge. So that could be a nice kickstart to the hitting for that inning. I also wanted to ask you guys about the bullpen, because that's also been a big question mark as the season has gone on. Are you guys worried at all that the bullpen could end up costing this team at some point?
I am a little bit worried, because this bullpen has been thin since February. They did zero to address the bullpen over the offseason. It's been a topic the entire year. They had the best bullpen in baseball for a little bit of a stretch. The depth was never there, though. They've gone through just the recycling bin of relievers. Michael Tonkin was a great relief pitcher, and they DFA'd him. They had Victor Gonzalez, they had Caleb Ferguson, guys that kind of struggled. But this is my point. They've been going through names to get them through the season. Clay Holmes was an all-star. He was not good this year. He just was not good. He had 11 or 12 blown saves. We're talking the Yankees could be closer to a 100-win team if he doesn't blow half of those games. And 6 is still a lot if you want to be an elite-level closer. So I am very worried about the bullpen. If the Yankees tiptoe around how they should be using their bullpen, because in the last 2 weeks of the season, their bullpen was very solid. Aaron Boone did a very good job of who should be going where. If Luke Weaver is not closing games, who's it going to be? Ian Hamilton? It should not be Clay Holmes. It could be Tommy Kahnle. But the management, like I said in the beginning, the pitching overall, mainly the bullpen, if it is not managed correctly, the Yankees will lose themselves in this postseason. They need to make sure that they are pressing all the right buttons, and they will get away with it because of their starting pitching depth. No Nestor Cortez until at least the next round, but You have Clark Schmidt, who can give you bulk out of the bullpen. I have no idea why you left Marcus Stroman off the roster, who can do the same thing and save your bullpen. We're talking like 3-4 innings. Let's say Heel throws 85 pitches in 4 innings, and you take him out, you can put Stroman in for 3 or 4. That gets you to the 7th. I know he's a home run kind of pitcher, but that gets you to the 7th inning, and then you only need to mix and match 2 other guys, depending on where the game is at. So their starting pitching depth will help them. Yes, Stroman is off the roster. That's why I'm very confused to that. Tucker IFB'd me saying he's off the roster. I'm very confused as to why that's the case. You should have had Stroman there. They need to manage their starting pitching depth correctly, and it will help their bullpen. But
I don't even know if because Cortez has been so inconsistent too.
But in the bullpen, he's been good. He's been good, and you still need him. He's hurt, so you can't do anything about it. But these are guys that'll eat multiple innings. We're talking like beefed up long relievers. 3-4 innings out of the bullpen is awesome. That saves a bullpen for days. If you only have to use 2 guys that are regularly in your bullpen, that's really good. But it's all going to come down to how they manage the pitching overall.
Well, we'll see how.
Yeah, I had a question for Will. What do you think they should do with Clay Holmes since he's been failing at being a closer?
6th, 7th inning. That's it. That's it. Got to have like a 2-3 run lead. If the game is tied, if they're down, personally don't want to see him in there. I don't want to see him in there. He's walked himself out of the role. That's what happens. But if you're the Yankees, you are not turning to him in these situations. You're not going to say, "Oh, he was our guy in the beginning." No, he was not your guy down the stretch. He was not the guy who was in place when you clinched and you ended up getting into this position. So the reason I'm worried about that is because we've seen that in the past. Aaron Boone cannot turn to his old philosophies after they had been corrected. Don't go back. Luke Weaver, 9th inning. End of story. Tim Hill, 9th inning. End of story. You don't have a bona fide closer. You're doing closer by committee, closer by matchup. Clay Holmes is in the 6th or the 7th with a lead. He gets you 1 inning, maybe an inning and 2/3. That's it.
I'm with you on that point, Will. But with that, we'll let the Yankees show us if we're right or wrong about our opinions tonight. And when we come back from a quick break, we'll be talking about the Yankees' crosstown rival, the Mets.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Jack Warner, one of your WFUV beat reporters for the 2024 New York Mets. Baseball is in the air in Queens, and I'll have you covered all season long as Carlos Mendoza looks to lead the Amazons to a World Series title in his first season as New York's manager. To stay in the loop on every Severino bump day or Lindor big fly, follow me on Twitter at Jack_Warner23. I'll have you covered with live in-game updates, exclusive media availability, and post-game recaps about your boys in blue and orange. WFUV is your home for New York sports.
Welcome back to One-on-One, New York's longest running sports call-in show. I'm Will Jing. I'm joined by Trey Rodriguez and Luis Andrade, who's still here. Thank you to Will Talent for joining us for that Yankees segment that just ended. And now it's time to talk about the Mets, who I think we're all expecting to be eliminated by the Phillies in this round. What's weird, I also wanted to mention, is that 3 of the 4 DS matchups are actually division matchups. The only one that's not is Yankees-Royals. So the Mets are going to be facing off against their rivals, the Phillies. And I think the Phillies are obviously objectively the favorites, but the Mets may have a chance if they're. Listen, they've come a long way from expectations, right? No, I don't think anyone expected them to be here. I don't think many people expected them to be in the playoffs at all. Yet they beat the Brewers. They're in the DS and they're playing the Phillies. I think that while they are the underdogs, their grit says something. And I mean, if they're really just on the money, you guys think they could pull this off? Maybe.
I think so. Obviously being a Yankees fan, you don't look too fondly of the Mets, but I'm gonna do this for Kurt, my friend, big Mets fan. You know Kurt, love Kurt, Mock D, Group D. Yeah, they've proven no one expected after the upset of like Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor. That 2022 season was a big disappointment. 2023 season, massive disappointment. They traded everybody away. Complete failure. No one expected them to be in this situation. Everyone thought they were going to be one of those teams at the bottom, going for the worst record in the league, but they proved everyone wrong. And I think I want to be positive they can prove everyone wrong, especially I could see them upsetting the Phillies.
I mean, I don't have that much faith in them, I can't lie. I think Philly is just a much better team than them. Philly's just got great pitching, great batters. It's just all around. It's going to be a very hard matchup for the Mets. I think in order for the Mets to at least put up a fight, I think what's going to be very important for them is we have to look at some key pieces of how they actually got there. And these are some of their veteran guys that they got that they weren't really expecting much out of, but look what happened with them. Got Jose Quintana and Sean Manaea. They both stepped up really big time in rotation this year, and that helped the Mets make the playoffs. Without them, they weren't making the playoffs. If they keep on continuing their performance, I could totally see this series being very competitive. Now, we also need Edwin Diaz as their closer to start. He's struggled, but he's been finding himself in these past few games. So he needs to also keep that streak going of good games in order for the series to be competitive. Now, what's very important for the Mets is that, as we saw in the wild card series, they were really struggling hitting, and they were able to get through it by just figuring it out. But the thing is that you guys can't keep on figuring it out. You need to eventually actually have games that you're actually hitting good, and you're not just relying on complete spark plays in order to win you games. I mean, the way they won that game at the end there was just crazy. Something I said about a month ago was that the Mets, they needed more clutchness in them. They needed more players to step up in key moments. And one of the guys I was harping on was Pete Alonso. And look what Pete Alonso does. Pete Alonso comes in, hits a 3-run home run, absolutely saves the Mets series against a Devin Williams who was pitching out of his mind before that happened. So that needs to continue, but at the same time, you can't just keep on basically not hitting anything until just some random home run happens.
The Phillies, throughout the season, they've been struggling. They've been having their cold stretches. And I feel like the Mets, if they can take advantage of this, and they've also had recently they choked in the playoffs against the Diamondbacks. They went to the World Series, but they lost. But that's not the point. They can really. I feel like they have a chance to prove. They have Kodai Senga. He's coming back finally after he came back from an injury with his hamstring. I'm pretty sure. Moving on to we're talking about Pete Alonso and his clutchness. That's going down in Mets history. That's one of the moments in Mets. They were going against electric. I was sitting down with my friend. We were watching the game. This game's over. Lindor gets on base. Nino gets on base. And Pete Alonso goes up. I'm like, okay, he's not really been that guy. He dropped a easy pop out in foul territory earlier. I'm like, maybe he's not that guy. He proved me wrong. And I just feel like there was a very questionable quote about sucking. I think it was JD Martinez that said it.
Oh,
yeah, it's really questionable. But I feel
you already had a pause moment earlier. Don't have another one.
Yeah, but I think that quote, even though it's so weird and is very questionable, it represents the Mets. They know they're not the best team. They know they can't go against this David and Goliath type thing with the Phillies, but they still have the confidence. They still can do it. They beat the Brewers. They were beefing them since the beginning of the season with that brawl they had early on, and they proved it to them hey, you're not gonna mess with us. If you're gonna take us down, you gotta go us down swinging. Come on.
What do you guys think is the biggest weakness on both teams? Because I think I mean, looking at the Mets stats, nothing really jumps off the page about them. Even Pete Alonso's batting average, it's not, for Pete Alonso's name, you'd expect it to be better. I mean, even when you look at the Phillies, I mean, we all know how good they are. On paper, though, nothing about them jumps off until you actually see them on the screen playing. What do you guys think is the biggest weakness that, the other team can exploit?
All right, well, absolutely with the Mets, what I was saying was that they're hitting terrible, and if the Phillies can limit the big plays that the Mets rely on to win games, the Phillies will just destroy the Mets. That's just how it's going to go. If the Mets cannot get their hitting back on track and have to rely on spark plays, and Philly can actually counter that, they should be perfectly fine. Philly, it's a bit harder to look at for weaknesses because they're kind of strong in all areas. When you look at it, I mean, they're catching JT Realmuto. JT Realmuto is one of the best catchers in the MLB when he's healthy, and got very good pitching with Zach Wheeler. Just great batters. Got Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, and Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos. Really, just I don't know. There's not really much of a weakness here to this team. Maybe in order for anything. Maybe anything, a weakness that could happen is like with the Mets. Maybe for some reason the batters have a slump, but that's just like a reach. I don't really see a weakness here.
I agree. Like the Phillies are really like almost a perfect team. I wouldn't say perfect, and that's what the Mets could take advantage of. Like I mentioned it earlier, and you just mentioned it now. The cold stretch, and cold stretches come and go. It's a normal part of baseball, but we got a pitcher like Kodai Senga starting Game 1, and I feel like if he comes out with a statement and showing to them like shutting down the Phillies offense and that gets them into like a bad rhythm, I feel like that could set a kind of a theme or a rhythm for the pitching staff for the Mets and to try to limit the Phillies offense and like give the Mets a chance.
But you think that's really possible? You just told me that the Phillies are like the perfect team.
Well, that's the thing. The Mets have been going off a prayer this entire season, and so far it's been working. And that with a team like this, you really got to go with the prayer. And that's what I said earlier with the questionable quote. That's what their team's about. It's about grit and just like rolling with it. Just keep rolling with the punches.
It's gonna be hard, man, to beat the Phillies team just off of prayer. Because listen, prayers can only take you so far.
They can.
This is not David and Goliath. This is not at the end of the day. It's not a movie. This is not the Bible. This is
real life.
You know what I mean? So it's the Brewers. I mean, because I think when you look at the NL, the Phillies and the Dodgers are in like a league of their own.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at it that way, it becomes like, I mean, the Braves could be there on paper, but they're just not, right? So when you look at that on paper, it's like, okay, prayer and grit and big plays have gotten you this far, right? Plays at the right time, like Pete Alonso getting that home run where you already got 2 guys on base. That's gotten you here. But against the Phillies, against the Dodgers, should you advance the NLCS somehow, some way? This Phillies team is already phenomenal. You go and advance against the Dodgers, they're going to
I got something to say about that. I'm going to cut you off, but the Dodgers have been infamous
I know.
playoff chokers, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. The Padres are going to beat them. I'm just going to say that before we get Padres are beating them.
All right, we'll talk more about that later.
But I've told you, the Phillies, just like the Yankees, I don't mean to bring them back in, but obviously I have to bring them up. They're their worst enemy. The Phillies. Last year, like I brought it up earlier, the Diamondbacks, they lost to the Diamondbacks. Huge favorites. The Phillies were they're going to go into the World Series. They're going to win it all. They didn't. They lost to the small Diamondbacks, and I can see this happening again this year.
Really?
Yes, I can see it.
All right, so what percentage chance you give the Mets here? I'll ask you, Trey, after.
30-70.
Wait, what'd you say?
30 Mets, 70 Phillies. I don't know. Other way around. That's
like,
crazy. That's crazy.
No, I was just like 30-70. Like I didn't know there was 30-70%. Like I thought you meant like 30-70. I'm like.
No. 30-70%. That's what
Trey.
Let's say probably about 10% chance. I don't really think there's really much going on for them there. And kind of like what you were saying, in order for this to work out, those prayers need to be answered.
I don't know. Even 10% is generous, but we'll talk a little bit more about the rest of the league, and I guess we'll let Lewis expand on his prediction about the Padres in a couple minutes right after this break.
Hey guys, Grace McCarran here with Jack Warner.
And we're two of your hosts for Nosebleeds, WFUV's one and only baseball podcast.
We'll keep you in the loop on all tri-state news with the Yankees and Mets,
as well as the biggest headlines from around the MLB.
Catch weekly episodes of Nosebleeds on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Take a trip around the bases with Nosebleeds on WFUV Sports.
Welcome back to One on One, New York's longest running sports call-in show. Once again, Will Jing, Trey Rodriguez, and Luis Andrade here. For our last 17 minutes of this show, we're just going to be talking about general baseball playoffs and predictions. And I guess we'll start off talking about a series that we didn't really touch on yet, and that's the LA Dodgers and the San Diego Padres, rivals, and obviously one of them comes in as a massive favorite. The favorite to win the World Series just altogether right now, the LA Dodgers. This is like a super team like I've never seen before. I mean, from the beginning of the season it was like the same thing. The way they were able to defer salaries and everything to build this roster is nuts. I mean, on paper, this is probably the best roster we've seen since the 2009 Yankees.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, like this team is stacked from pitching to hit. The hitting is amazing. You got Mookie Betts, you got Freddie Freeman, you got Will Smith, you got of course Shohei Ohtani, and then you got Yamamoto, you got Clayton Kershaw. Just like overall, great team. But the one problem I see with this team is, it's the big elephant in the room. They are playoff chokers. It's the way it's been. It's the way it has been for like how many years now? Like for the past decade, they just find ways to choke. Except in that one 2020 World Series, which is a Mickey Mouse. But I'm not gonna get into that.
I disagree. I don't like the Mickey Mouse playoff takes. The playoff is the playoffs. Just because there's no fans or it's different circumstances, the game didn't change.
I would So
That's a fair
the conversation for a different day. I don't agree at all, but yeah. And also, big thing. I don't feel like this is being talked about a lot, but Freddie Freeman has an ankle injury. He was like running. I think it was running bases, and he messed up his ankle on a routine play. And I think even though he's coming back to play, it's going to be great defensive liability. And I feel like the Padres, even though it's a little small thing, they could take advantage of it. Even if small things add up over time.
It's not for them to take advantage of, though. I mean, if he's a first baseman, which really means that if the ankle injury is going to affect him, it's going to maybe affect his ability to really stretch out and catch that ball earlier a little bit. I think other than the Padres can't really do anything to exploit it. Maybe running wise, base running.
Routine. Most routine plays happen at first base. Yeah, so like most of the times they're throwing to first base, and if your first baseman's limit, it's not going to be they take advantage of it. It's just going to be a high percent chance of them like getting to first base or not. Fielder's choice, 50-50. It's going to be more like 60-40 with his injury, in my opinion. 70-30.
I mean, I think for me in this series, I got the Padres winning this. They're the hottest.
Wow. Okay.
I agree. No.
They're the hottest team in baseball right now. They've had the best record in the second half of the season. Everything's going right for them. They just look absolutely dominant, and everything's just clicking at the right time.
Exactly.
I mean, this team is just looking really scary right now. They're my dark horse to make it to the World Series. I won't say who's going to win the World Series, but they are my dark horse to make it out of the NL. I think this team is looking. And especially with LA's history of choking, this team is looking pretty scary. And I think that, look, anything's possible with Tatis Jr. So we'll see what happens.
Listen, the San Diego Padres. I've never said this on air before, but they're actually my. If I had to pick, they would be my second favorite team because I don't think I've told you guys this story.
No,
but. They saved me from losing $60 as a high schooler, which is a big, big deal. I didn't have because I lost a bunch of money on a Yankee game where Garrett Cole was on the mound facing the Tigers, who they could face in the next round, and then it was like I think it was 2-2 against the Tigers, bottom 9, and whoever it was threw a strike, and I was like, all right, game. I had like won all my other bets, and I'm like, yeah, I'm making $60 today. The ump calls it a ball. Goes to a full count. And there's a runner on first. Yankees up 1. Next pitch, boom, see ya. And I was so mad. And then I ended up putting money on the Padres to beat the Astros. Fernando Tatis, I mean, it was ridiculous. He saved me because it was like 6-3, and then he hit a 3-run shot in top 9, and then they won in like 12 innings. So I still haven't listen. I said I was gonna get a Tatis jersey just for that.
You should.
I haven't done it yet. I swear to God, this is a completely true story. When he did that, I kissed my basement floor.
Oh, that's gross.
He was. I've never seen him so down bad. Damn.
That was like such a lifesaver for me. But just looking at the series, all jokes aside, I don't know if the Padres can really pull it off. The Dodgers are so loaded unless this choking curse is really a thing. Like what? Like you said there's no weakness on that Phillies team. There's no weakness on this freaking Dodgers team. Like they're Betts, Ohtani, like Will Smith. The pitching is elite. I mean, I guess Clayton Kershaw. I don't think he's coming back. There is that question mark. And I don't know if even if he gets healthy, you want to throw him in there. But I mean, even without him, I mean, you still have Yamamoto, you still have Tyler Glasnow.
Glasnow's injured.
Oh, Tyler Glasnow's injured?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's injured. Yeah.
You know when he's coming back?
No, I don't think he's coming back until like maybe later, hopefully.
Oh, Tucker just said not for the playoffs. Okay.
Yeah, he's not for the playoffs. Oh.
Well, that's quite the hit that they just took. I mean, even then though, still, I mean, their hitting's elite enough that I feel like a pitcher that goes out. I mean, even though I would say it's their best pitcher, right? Tyler Glasnow right now.
No,
I mean, him and Yamamoto are
Yamamoto is better.
I mean,
but he's still great. Obviously, he's still like one of their best pitchers.
But I mean, even then, do you think I don't think that's enough. That
I think so. even though obviously put the curse to the side. It is real, by the way, but I'll put it to the side. Forget about that. The Padres are hot. They just dominated the Braves. Like, they just tore them apart. And the hotness came from the Tatis Jr. You should get his jersey, by the way. You should totally get it. After that home run, he pimped it. He hit it. Held back like that. It was just the coolest thing ever. And the stadium was going crazy.
What are you talking about?
Tati, you didn't watch the wild card? The wild card against the Braves.
I may have seen that clip on Instagram.
Trey, please tell me you've seen that clip.
No.
Oh, my. I'll pull it up after.
Tucker just told me, though, Musgrove is also out for the
Yes, I was going to mention that.
Oh, yeah,
actually.
Musgrove is out, too. That is a big loss for the Padres. But I can't ignore the fact that the playoff choker is going to be a big part of it, especially Clayton Kershaw, who's going to be one of their starters. He's actively shown that he cannot be trusted in a playoff situation. And if he's going to be one of those...
Clayton Kershaw's not pitching right now.
So. Is he not?
No, he's injured.
He's injured, too?
Yeah, he's injured. So he may not come back.
So I'm not... That's another reason the Dodgers seem to have a lot of injury problems then.
Yeah, but they're so deep. Like, you still have Ohtani, Betts, Muncy, all the guys that I named, plus you still have Yamamoto.
Muncy fell off a little bit, but yeah.
He's still a good piece to have.
He still is a good piece, but he's not in his prime anymore.
But what do the Padres have that makes you think? Yes, they have
Tatis,
Fernando Tatis, obviously.
Machado.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, they're not. I don't think they're as deep. They're still great, but they're not deep the way.
I think it's gonna be very close. I'm making it seem like they're gonna blow them out. I think Padres in 5. Padres in 5.
Wow, you're giving the Dodgers one game in this series?
Yeah.
Okay. How much are you saying?
That's 2 games. 2 games apiece, and then game 5.
Oh right, it's best of 5. Okay.
Yeah, best of 5.
I mean, honestly, yeah, I think I have to agree with that. This is gonna be a very close series because I mean, yeah, the Dodgers are the better team at the end of the day. But I do think just I think momentum matters so much in baseball, and there's just so much momentum going for the Padres right now.
Listen, I'll put it to you this way. I really hope the Padres win. I mean, again, I just told you they're my second favorite team, so I hope that if nothing else, this team, I would love to see Fernando Tatis win one. I don't think this franchise has had a World Series championship, so I would love to see them get one, honestly. But it's just
we are talking about a Padres team that not only were 50-50 at one point of the year and ended off the season with 94 plus wins. This Padres team has, I want to say, the best pitching depth in the playoffs. Even though they just lost Musgrove, that's a huge loss. They still have the bullpen to make it up. You saw Game 1 in the Wild Card Series. Michael King was an ace. 7 innings, 12 strikeouts. I mean, if he's doing that for the Padres consistently, boom, that's your ace. And then you just have to figure out the rest of your starting pitching and then the bullpen. If they don't let down like they have in previous years in the postseason, there's no reason why the Padres can't make it all the way to the World Series. And you're talking about this series against the Dodgers. The offenses are similar. Even though the Dodgers on paper have more star power, the offenses are still similar in the aspect that they can both struggle at the same time, they can both hit at the same time, and they both are star-studded, no matter who has more.
Listen, I'm putting it to you this way. I want the Padres to win, like I said. I want the Padres to win. However, if I'm just going in zero bias, zero rooting interest, just I guess we'll use the saying from First Take when Max Kellerman was like, the Martians have the laser beam pointed down on Earth. You got to pick this the right way. If that's the situation, or if someone's putting a gun to my forehead saying you better pick the series right, or I'm pulling the dang trigger, I'm thinking. Listen, I'm taking Dodgers and
he's so dead.
Dodgers and 7.
He's so dead. It's 5 in 5.
he said
I can't give you Dodgers in 5. I'm sorry. This is the one chance that the Padres need to take advantage of the Dodgers injuries. You have a Freeman who's not fully healthy. You have Ohtani who hasn't been in the postseason ever, so you don't know how he's gonna perform. You know what you get from Mookie Betts, and you know what you get from the rest of the team offensively. But you don't have the starting pitching that LA would want going into the playoffs, while the Padres do have the starting pitching and the bullpen. The bullpen, I think, is the biggest key factor going into this series of why the Padres will win I say either in 4 or 5 is because the bullpen can get you from the 5th to 9th inning easily if the Padres just get the lead.
Angel, thank you so much.
I will tell you this. I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
He is going to be right.
I hope you're all right. Except the only bad thing is now you guys are making me be like, now I want what I said to be right. So now
It's
I'm like,
not going to happen, bro.
now it's like, now you guys are making it a little bit hard for me as far as rooting interest, which now I hate you guys for that. Now it's becoming more difficult for me. Like, I was originally going to definitely root for the Padres. Now I'm just like, now I don't know. Also because I feel like the Yankees would have an easier time against the Padres. But, I mean, for basically every reason possible. But, all right, last playoff series. We got a couple minutes to talk about it. Guardians, Tigers. I almost said Indians. I said that a couple. Like, listen, it's
weird. It is weird.
It's still weird. I hate the name Guardians. Commanders, like all these Utah Hockey Club.
Utah, that's like the worst name possible they picked.
I hope Utah sucks just for that reason. For the fact that they didn't pick a name. I hope they wrote 0-82. Anyway, Tigers, Guardians. Who we got?
All right. I got the Guardians beating the Tigers. I think the Guardians are just a very good all-around team. They got the best closer in the MLB, Emmanuel Clase, 71.4 innings with a 0.61 ERA. Absolutely fantastic. Top of that, they also got the best bullpen in baseball and a star hitter in Jose Ramirez. I really don't think there's much reason why the Guardians should lose this. Obviously, Detroit's been playing with a whole lot of grit, but I think only grit gets you so far. So
just like the Mets.
Yeah, just like the Mets. But I would say the Guardians are way better than the Mets, obviously. They won the AL Central. They're just an overall better team. But the Tigers have been hot. You know, they no one expected them, especially down the stretch. Will Talon mentioned it earlier. They were on a crazy win streak. They were not even in the playoff picture, and they somehow snuck in, beat the Astros, the heavy favorites, and I feel like they could carry that momentum into this and make it interesting.
So how many games do you think this is?
I say 4 or 5. 4 or 5. I say the Guardians will come up on top, but like I feel the Tigers will make it interesting.
Okay, well Tucker just told me. Oh, Tucker just told me that the Guardians are up 4-1 right now.
They are. Oh.
So
4-0. 4-0.
Oh, 4-0. My bad.
5-0.
5-0. Okay.
Damn.
Correction. Score correction. Just to be quick, I'm saying Guardians are 4. I think, like we said, I mean the pitching is gonna be big time, and obviously they're already up 5-0. So I'll give.
Wait, Scooball is he pitching?
Hey, listen, baseball.
No,
ball
not.
can go both ways. I'm gonna throw the Tigers one win. I think even the best teams they'll drop a game. And I think the Tigers are good enough to sneak one in. But that does it, man. That's the end of our 3 hours of one-on-one. I had a good time talking sports with you guys because, listen, there was a lot to talk about, a lot of fun stuff. I feel like we were all pretty strong in at least one or two of the things we talked about. So I had a lot of fun. Thanks to both of you guys, Luis Andrade and Trey Rodriguez, for joining me on this show. Thank you to Tucker Austin. Did a great job back there producing the show. Thanks to Angel Ducret for running the video producing for this YouTube live stream. And thank you to Bobby Chaffardino, who makes this all possible, our sports director at WFUV. I am Will Jing, your A-host for today. This is One-on-One, and this was a production of WFUV Sports.